Hey everybody, how are we doing this fine Saturday afternoon? I see that Chris Finnegan says evening off. Is it evening where you're at, Chris? But it's the afternoon here. It's probably morning where many of you are at. But we've got a show today where I'll be talking to my good friend Mike Oeming, of course, about his recent doings in comics, and we'll be selling some original artwork at towards the end of the show. And as you know, we I always go over the ground rules before we get started with any interviews that we do with regards to selling original comic art on it. So I'll give you the rules right now, and then I'll bring Mike in. We can talk. The claims are going to happen in the chat. No more emails going into anybody. You'll just write down the word claim and the lot number. Every lot that we show you today will have a lot number associated with it. So it'll make it very easy. You can claim any lot at any time during the show. So if we're on lot 20 and you made a note that you like lot 3 and you are ready to pull the trigger, you can claim lot 3 at later in the show. So as far as payment, we do expect payment for all claims to be made within 48 hours. We do take PayPal. I can send out PayPal invoices for you. If you need to do that, we do charge a service fee in the US of 4% and 5.5 international. We do take Zelle, and I do allow everybody to send in checks if that is the alternative they want to take, as long as the checks are put in the mail immediately on Monday. So regards to shipping, the prices that you see today do not include shipping. Shipping is $30 domestic, $65 international. And as you know, I am handling all the fulfillment for the show these days. We do combine on shipping, of course. Outside of that, you know how the deal goes. It's, we try to keep things lively here. If you enjoy interviews and chats and art sales, you should definitely subscribe to the channel and give it a thumbs up while we're doing this. But now, the gentleman of the hour, and he is ready to be in here, as is Taki. Hey, Mike, how are you doing?
Hey, Bill, doing good. Doing
Awesome.
really good. Excited for this. It's always a good time.
Yeah. It's been, when was the last time we did this? It was in the fall, early fall, I think, September or so.
Yeah. I think that's what it was. I can't tell. Can tell what time
it is. It's been at least 6 months.
Okay.
Yeah. But let's see. Borna wants to know where there'll be Powers Art today. Yes, there will actually be Powers Art today, and Chris Finnegan's confirmed wherever he's at. It is 7 p.m. So I assume someplace in Europe. All right.
Some of it's signed by Brian.
That is true. Not all of it, but some of it.
Some of it, yeah.
Very good.
He charges me a lot whenever he signs, so I can only afford so many signatures per request.
A lunch or dinner or something like that. Well, so obviously I was looking at, before we did the interview, I was like, I'm going to see how many times Mike's name has been in the news lately, and for good or bad. I hate to tell you that there was nothing on any criminal record searches or anything like that. But like I saw that with the Blue Book, there was some get together that you did last month at a theater. What was that all about?
Dark Horse put on this great event at the Hollywood Theater here in Portland, which is this fancy old timey theater. It always does like art shows and stuff like that. So we did James Tinian and our editor Greg Lockhart flew out, and we did a showing of Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Mm-hmm. And our pal David Walker hosted it. So then we did like a Q&A afterwards and signed some comics. And it was huge. Like it was one of the most packed events that they've had for these special kind of showings and stuff. There was like a little over 200 people or so. And it was great. It was really cool rewatching the film again, which was a movie that influenced both James and I very much as children. Kind of the old schooly UFO stuff, pre-ancient aliens and all that, it was really, really cool. We had a great time.
So how was the Q&A? Did you get a lot of interest from the 200 people that were there? I would have to believe it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, there was a lot of questions. And it was funny. It was the first time I've been really in the public for a very long time. I've done like 1 or 2 store signings, which usually go, really slow and chill. And it's mostly your friends hanging out, right? And on stage, the first time ever, I had a full-on panic attack. I hid it really well. Nobody could tell. But inside, I was like, please don't vomit or pass out. I made it through, but I was definitely out of practice, and I didn't expect that. So that was a little shocking. But we had, other than the panic attack, it was great.
Wow. Well, that's great. I mean, I know James has been, he's a very interesting guy, and he deserves all the attention and the praise he's been getting lately. So it must have been a lot of fun to be able to do that with him and to kind of see the fans' reaction.
It was really special, to be honest. Like, I mean, James and I aren't tight friends like Brian and I are, but you get these special moments when you create something with somebody, and then you get to share some sort of event, whether it's just a store signing that was really special, or like in this case, it was just watching this movie with each other, you know. And it was a really good bonding experience for two creators who otherwise only text each other or do a few Zooms, and you know, we just talk to each other through the scripts. So it was really neat. It was really, really cool. It was yeah, just it felt good, if that makes any sense.
No, without question. Had you met James in person? I'm assuming before that, right? I mean, you've done Zoom calls, so it wasn't like you were kind of going into this.
Yeah, there was the Zoom calls, and one other time he was out in Portland and we did lunch at like the food carts and stuff. But this is the most time we got to spend together, and that was really good. And he got to hang out with, you know, my circle of friends like David Walker and Brian and others. And so it was just a good all around bonding experience. Like, just felt really positive, and yeah, I loved it.
So the overall reception for Blue Book has been pretty positive. I mean, everything I've read has, you know, people are really enjoying it.
Thanks. Yeah, it's been surprising because it's not the kind of book you would think would grab people's attention. Like, it feels so fringy. Like, in fact, when James first told me he was interested in this and it was for a Substack to go digital, it made sense. It was like, oh, well, I've always wanted to do this kind of approach to this weirdness, is this sort of journalistic view of just this is what happened. You know, this is how it was reported, and not sensationalize anything. But that wouldn't really sell as a comic, would it? You know, you'd need to sensationalize it or add some sort of spin to it or something. But like in the Substack form, it seemed like, oh, it would make sense. This will work. And it felt like this neat bucket list thing. And then to see it be successful as a comic was really surprising. And yeah, I'm overjoyed and feels just lucky, because you can do good work and nobody will see it or react to it for various reasons. Some of which because comics right now, there's so much good stuff. There's so much good stuff right now. It's kind of hard to get attention. Even the good stuff is just having trouble like grabbing people, because there's so much quality out there right now, both in writing and art. So it's just all around feel lucky.
That's no, well, it's very well deserved. I mean, I think the book looks great. I love the coloring in it as well. I mean, it's fantastic. You know, I mean, everything about the presentation is really beautiful. It really, you know, I enjoy it. And I'm a, you know, that's like kind of my era. I love the X-Files. I love anything related to science fiction, even more so than Spandex Heroes as well. So for me, it's just a fun read. Yeah,
both James and I grew up on like the Leonard Nimoy series, In Search Of, which had that like, because we always saw it, like, I'm sure it aired better in the 70s, but like it always had this like degraded film quality to it, so it was already creepy. And then Close Encounters and stuff, and like that sort of leading up to X-Files, and sort of after X-Files, there's this other, the whole field changed in a different way, in the ways that it needed to. But I think we are grabbing people with the old school feel, you know. So I think maybe that's why it's doing so well. And James, you know, I mean, he's an interesting writer.
Yeah, he's got a following, that's for sure. I mean, all that helps, and you know, working at any rate, yeah, I love it, and I think that it's definitely got a lot of interesting potential. You know, and again, you're kind of like retelling stories that we've read before or seen before in dramatizations and things like that, but it's in comic form, and that's what's cool. I mean, because I don't watch a lot of popular, you know, like primetime TV stuff, but I turn on whenever they have the Ancient Aliens or you know, on Netflix. That's what I put on, you know, beside me while I'm working typically, because you know, they're just enjoyable, and you love all those like 50s stories when they talk about the time they saw the, you know, the alien ship, you know, following them home or whatever.
Yeah, I've always loved the just that general sort of what ifness of it, you know, the sort of modern day folk tales, like the question of whether it's real or not, or you believe in it or not, like that's almost so far in back of your head from just sort of listening to it. It's like somebody just telling you a bar story or something, you know, and it's a good story, and it captures you, you know. So yeah, it's really cool, and it's definitely capturing the imagination again, because like history is doing a weird repeating thing. It's the early history of UFOs is very much like what's going on now, with where you have like the Air Force reports and videos coming out, and they're sort of saying, oh, there's these things that we don't quite know, and then they'll take a step back, and then there's balloons involved again, and it's really interesting from like a historical point of view that it's Blue Book is sort of repeating itself right now with these other programs and stuff right in front of us. And us old people paid attention. We're like, hey, we've seen this show before.
Exactly. No, it's awesome. But so what are the plans? I mean, is this going to be a how long do you guys think you'll be running the storyline?
I think it'll just run as long as people are interested in it.
Yeah.
James and I have a very strong interest in it, and there's so many subcategories of this whole thing. The second story we're doing, which is about Kenneth Arnold, that's sort of the first guy who, quote, saw UFOs here in the Northwest area and coined the term flying saucer, which was actually a mistake. It wasn't saucer shaped. He was saying it like skipped along like a saucer, and then that became part of the vernacular. And it's but anyway, long story short, we'll do it as long as people are interested in.
Good. I didn't know if you had like an arc and you knew where you were going to stop and then see where things went, or
Yeah, the first one's like 100 pages long, the Betty and Barney Hill. There's just so much to mine from there. And then some of them will be shorter and some will be longer. Some will be more personal, like Betty and Barney Hill, and then some of them would be more like almost journalistic, like jumping from scene to scene. And those are really fun because they create new challenges. Like one of the most interesting things for me to take this project on was that there's nobody punching anybody. There's no people being thrown through glass windows or leaping off of buildings or anything like that. So like the storytelling has to be king. Like it has to be all in the body language and the facial expressions and interesting panel layouts and stuff. So so that creates new challenges when it's a different kind of story than this first arc, which is very almost a traditional narrative. And then later we'll get into these like almost journalist-like comics, and it's a lot of fun.
All right. Well, I know we've got a few pages for sale, in a bit that are from that arc, and it's fun. I mean, it's all facial expressions. It's all kind of that sort of narrative where you almost don't even need to know the words. I mean, you can, as you're kind of flowing through it, you can get the story just from the visuals, and it's lovely. I'm looking because I can look at them right now while I'm talking to you, and it's I wish I could show them, but I'm not. Maybe next time I'll make sure to have some references from the book that we aren't selling. I can show those images while we're talking about it. But yeah, I love it. I love the art in it. I think the storytelling is great, and again, the coloring is fantastic in it too. So it's it really is a special book. Now, looking through again, back through all the times you came up in the news, what's the deal with is it, the 3W3M stuff that's going on? That was something that was announced?
Yeah, that was for Hickman's 3 Worlds, 3 Moons.
Yeah.
His science fiction project, which is the sprawling world building experiments / world building comic. And he has different artists doing different arcs. And I did like an 8-page story. And it was a lot of fun because it was like, mostly I'm working with people I'm very close to and familiar with. And every now and then I'll get to branch out and do something with somebody new. And it was really fun working with Hickman, who's a visionary, and to be able to work with him was really cool. And to do this really neat science fiction story, it's a little Twilight Zone-y, and to work with Mike Huddleston's or Henderson's, I'm sorry. Design elements, because he kind of designs everything beforehand. So we did that with 3 Worlds, 3 Moons, which you can read on the Substack, and I believe that then they're publishing physically as well.
Okay, that was what I was going to ask you too. Are they publishing physically too, since that was a Substack project initially? Yeah,
pretty much anything digital will at some point it makes sense to publish it analog, except it can be difficult if you don't plan for that ahead of time, like file sizes and stuff like that and technical jargon. But I think most people would, it's just a matter of time before stuff goes to print, right?
Typically. I mean, well, you never know in this day and age what to expect, right? That's the thing.
Yeah.
I think for every once in a while, you start thinking that, after that maybe at some point it won't, right? And because there's companies going out there that just aren't even probably ever going to print anything. So I don't know. I didn't know a lot about 3W3M before, before.
Oh, then the books that he's doing, they're beautiful. Like, I mean, there's these big hardbacks with like slip cases, and it's worth the money. The effort that they're putting into these is pretty extraordinary.
Excellent. So how did that project come about? I mean, was you were recruited in some manner?
Yeah, I think I just got lucky.
Yeah.
one of the really good things about just being around for a long time, finally, like generations have kind of grown up reading some of the work. So now that they're in places of influence, it's nice to be able to have some people just be like, oh, I've always enjoyed your work, and here's a story. Can we do something together? I mean, James was kind of like that. James Tinian's said that he had enjoyed Powers in his younger years and stuff. Not that he's an old man now, but
Right.
that was one of the reasons why we started sort of talking online, and that one thing led to another sort of thing.
Well, I don't think it's luck though, Mike. Just it's
well, I mean,
it is all those years of working. I mean, you've been in the business for over 30 years, so
there's definitely work, but there's luck, and timing is a whole situation in comics as well. Like I said, there's great books that come out and they're just not lucky enough to have the right timing to get attention or to, I mean, Powers, I think really when it first came out, it really benefited from coming out at the right time. So it's not just the work, but there's a lot of luck, and that's for myself as well. It's not simply whatever talent I have, but there's timing and things that are out of our control, and you have to be grateful for those things just as well as like the hard work.
Yeah, I get you. So you're a cat person, I take
it. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, Roman rules the house. Yeah, he named him after the worst character in Succession. I don't know why, but it worked out though, because it's pretty horrible.
An appropriate name. We just got 2 kittens that are pretty much running the house right now as well. They have not settled in whatsoever, and the older cat hasn't taken to them yet. So it's been a rough 2 or 3 months. Well, yeah, it'll work out eventually. The older cat sleeps outside now because she doesn't get any peace while she's in the house. But yeah, it keeps things fun around here. So but so outside of that, I mean, I did want to talk a little bit about Powers too, because I know we've talked before about that, but the timing of Powers was like you said was actually a good moment for when it came out. I think people were hungry or looking, they didn't know what they were missing until Powers came around, and you and Bendis really kind of tapped into something that I think turned on a lot of people to a different way of looking at superheroes, right? I mean, I think that and even still today, I mean, even where there's other stories told, along that vein of looking at heroes in different ways, I think Powers still holds up all these years later as still being one of those early pioneers of just diving into the characters and looking at them in a different way. And in your case, and with Powers, looking at it from a totally different outside perspective.
No, thanks so much. Thanks a lot. And it does have to do with timing. Like I think it spoke to its time. Just like new books now are doing the same thing in very different ways, and they're speaking to new and younger audiences or audience that hadn't been spoken to before. And that's the great thing about comics, is that they ebb and flow with the times that they're told, and you're lucky if you can be in lockstep with what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
No, that was yeah. So do you what's your relationship with Bendis like today? I mean, do you guys talk regularly, kick new project ideas around a lot?
Yeah, definitely. We're working on something. I mean, I'll see him later for Passover dinner today.
Oh, good.
We're gonna be going over there and talking work stuff. So we have a new project that we've not announced, but we've been working on. Taki is coloring. We've got a couple of issues of that finished, and that's in the can. We tend to try and work far ahead because life stuff happens and then other work stuff happens. So we've had this project we've been developing for quite a while. But what we can talk about is that New Murder Inc. is finally coming out. This is an arc that we actually did during the pandemic, and it's just now coming out because of like switching publishers and all that stuff. 6 issues, and what's really exciting is Brian had this idea to do a 6-issue cover spread, so all of the issues like connect into one big massive piece, which was challenging and fun, and Taki colored it, which really pulled it all together. And it's our best arc, because like the story just keeps getting bigger and crazier. It's still hard to keep up with reality, when you're talking about like international criminals and stuff,
right.
The world just gets crazier and stuff, but we're doing a pretty good job, I think. And then I think the first issue comes out from Dark Horse next week or two in early May.
Early May. That's what I thought. Because you have that, and then you have Project Monarch. Is that's in the
Yeah,
fall as well? So
yeah,
that's what
and
I'm saying.
that's the last one.
You're busy. You're so busy right now. I can't imagine pulling all this off. But like you were just saying, you really do work in
Yeah,
advance because you just never know publishing schedules and like you said, life things. So getting all that stuff done early is the right way to go.
yeah. So that book was finished definitely during the pandemic, and we had been working on it a couple of years before that. Victor Santos is the co-creator. The two of us are doing art together. He's doing sections. I'm doing sections. And it's a conspiracy theory satire.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a satire on a combination of Stanley Kubrick films and what was called Project Monarch, this sort of MK Ultra mind control stuff. And hopefully it's funny. I say that because satire is kind of dead anymore when it comes to the conspiracy world, and I even have to like write a forward, like explicitly not explaining the joke, but like I had to say, don't run with this on some QAnon form or something. This isn't disclosure of some kind,
of course. But now, for stuff like that, though, I mean, outside of Brian and Taki, I mean, are you sharing them with people to kind of get their initial gut reactions? I mean, does it help?
Yeah.
Do you worry about that sort of stuff and such that you preview it for some people to maybe in case you need to alter something, or if you feel like something's not landing the way you want?
Definitely. I mean, one of the good things, besides showing it to our friends, showing it to Dark Horse has editors and readers, sensitivity readers, and all this stuff to make sure you're just not like, oh, okay, especially if you're 50, like, okay, we don't do that. We don't say that anymore.
Right.
But luckily, weirdly, I was so careful because I had a really hard time writing this project because I had started it back in like maybe 2013, 14. And then things started getting really real. Like the conspiracy field used to be very much sort of like outside the box thinkers, relatively non-political, like kind of all thought was welcomed and stuff. And then around 2015, it started getting really weird and right-wingy, and you had like Pizzagate. Like as soon as like a guy showed up with a gun at a place because of one of these conspiracies that you would like, oh wow, look how wacky this is. I was like, oh, I can't quite have fun with this the way I used to. And that affected the work, and I had to do rewrites and stuff because I was like, oh my God, it was crazy.
Well, it is amazing how, real world happenings affect, you could say comic book publishing, or even movies, right? When what's his face got run over by the snowplow, right? When they were promoting his show on, I don't forget what channel. He was all bloodied originally, and then they kind of made him not all bloody because it was just like they didn't want to portray him, as beat up in any way. So I
didn't know that. I didn't know that part of the story. Well, this is where it gets weird, and why conspiracy theories get out of hand is people cannot accept that coincidences happen.
Right.
Wild coincidences that seem too wild to be true happen all the time. Those train derailments that happened in Ohio, they filmed a movie there about a train derailment that poisoned the whole area. Basically, and they used locals to film it.
Mm-hmm.
And then shortly after that, it actually really happened. And of course, people couldn't just accept that as, a very bizarre thing that happens. It had to be a, conspiracy of some kind. And that's how these things, it makes sense. It plays on the psyche of the mind. And it's kind of hard to accept these things. I didn't know about this thing about Jeremy Renner, but there you go. I mean, there's another example of that kind of.
Right. But I think that, I can understand why, editorial wants to kind of look over everything, and they have to have sensitivity readers and those sorts of things because, we're in our 50s, and, I don't relate. I've got an 18-year-old, a 20-year-old, and a 25-year-old, and I don't really, they're my kids, and I don't relate to them very well. So there's certain things that, we could be missing in some weird way.
Yeah, that's just natural. It happens. That will happen with your children as they get older. Because time and society changes, and you either roll with it, or you're the old man yelling at people at your lawn. And who wants to be that?
Nobody wants to be that. That is Taki's hand there. She's right beside Mike, monitoring the chat with everybody. But yeah, Jeremy Renner. I'm sorry, his name has slipped my mind, but everybody in the chat hit up on that. So, But that, yeah, no, that's interesting. I never really think about that sort of thing. But you always think of editorial, having kind of oversight on a project, but you don't think about the fact that they probably do have other people checking out the stories just to be sure. You don't want
Yeah, and
to.
it's all helpful. There's no
Yeah,
nobody's dictating to anybody like you can't do this because of that. They'll just bring up, this could be perceived this way because of such and such.
right.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense. So, Taki is here. I mean, I know she's been busy, right? Too. I know that coloring some projects. And I remember reading through. Yes, thumbs up on that. I do remember there wasn't there like a project, a Van Gogh project or something like that was like something that you were working on? Is that still in the process, Taki, or is that on the back burner because you're so busy?
Well, it's we're still looking for a publisher.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not children friendly, so I'm having a hard time kind of finding the right publisher.
Yeah, graphic novels tend to lean to YA or children, and while this isn't like wildly, I wouldn't even give it an R. I would give it a PG rating.
I would too. Yeah, there's nothing super inappropriate about it, but it isn't quite like kid friendly. So yeah, I'm having a hard time finding a publisher, but I do feel like once I find a perfect one, it'll go.
Yeah, we feel good about that too. So I've just been watching a bunch of I've been really getting back into The Watership Down by Richard Adams, and I was watching a bunch of documentaries about it, and it took him 4 years to sell that. And it makes sense because it's sort of a children's book, but it's also not, and not even just because of like the violence aspect of that people keep always bringing about how traumatizing it is, but it is not written like if you just replace those for people in a tribe, it would be the same story. Like there's no sort of cuteness to it or whatever, other than the inherent cuteness of rabbits. But the point being, it can take years to sell the right thing, to find the right publisher. Because if the publisher is all selling kids stuff, and then there's a book where Van Gogh's meeting with their prostitute friends and stuff like that, book bannings will happen, which will be great actually. I mean, that would just help sell the book, I
guess. Besides Van Gogh, I am working on other stuff. Working on several projects right now, writing and mostly writing. Yeah.
Well, that's what I remember. I think like the last time we talked that you're doing a lot of writing. So that's good though. I mean, I think that you both are very, you're multi-talented. You like storytelling from all sides, whether it's the writing side or the artwork or, being part of any part of the process. I just think that that's fun. And so you're like a power couple in comics.
Well, it is interesting. We've learned from each other enough that now we can both, pencil, ink, write, letter, and color. Whereas like a couple years ago, neither Taki or I could letter, but we both incrementally had to learn, because of budgeting reasons and stuff. And same thing with coloring. Taki didn't color before Murder Inc. She just threw herself into the deep end. And then I had because of learning from her, then I was able to learn little bits here and there until I got to the point where the next project that I'm doing, which we can't announce because it's just too far ahead, I'm writing, drawing, penciling, inking, lettering, and coloring, just doing everything.
Wow.
But it took a long time and bouncing, learning off of each other. It's great. Marry a co-creator. It's great.
Yeah, being able to do all aspects of like the creative part of like making comics is kind of awesome. Just knowing that you can be self-reliant if you need to be. Just to get a project done is, it's comforting. Yeah.
Now, in a case like what you just mentioned, Mike, you said you're writing, drawing, coloring, lettering. I mean, is that your choice because you want to have full control over all of it, or is there a reason why you don't bring in somebody else?
This particular project just felt personal enough. It's not like a personal story, but like just creatively it felt personal enough that it just all made sense. And especially after doing Blue Book, where even though it's only a 2-tone color thing, it's not that far to go from there to actual colors. Especially because even when I do color, I'm not like I'm not a deep colorist. I still like limited color palettes and stuff. So just learning all these things and getting faster, like literally just being able to quickly move through a page with lettering and color, or at a better pace than I used to anyway. It no longer feels as intimidating as it was. That said, I mean, I can't wait till next time I work with Taki on color stuff, or Nick Filardi. You know, the two of them, like, they bring stuff to my work that I never could.
Except Nick is like significantly better than I am.
Nick is better than everybody.
It's true.
Well, here Shelley mentions that she's glad to hear that Van Gogh is still in the works, and Michael Ferlin mentioned that have you considered self-publishing, you know, by Kickstarter or something like that?
I'm thinking about it now.
Self-publishing's tough, right? I mean, at the end of the day, but it puts a lot more work on your plate versus, you know, working with a publisher. I mean, that's
the main thing. And when you're already a workaholic working on several different books, and then take time for the Kickstarter, which we do, you know, we can. It's just a big consideration. It's kind of like getting a new pet or something. Like, it's not just like, hey, we want a little guy in the house. It's like, so there's a lot to consider there.
Oh, I agree. I mean, I took over shipping art recently, and that I kind of knew what I was getting into, but I didn't really realize, you know, the extra time. It takes a lot more time to invoice and write checks and pack the art and ship the art than it does to prepare for the show. So
I'm a big baby. Like, I hate days where I can't just get to work. Like, I've had days where it's not until like 3 o'clock that I've answered emails and gone back and forth and, you know, ran to the post office or something and all that stuff. And like, I'm just upset at that point, you know, because I haven't started working yet.
Right.
This is the stuff that supports the work, you know, or comes after the work, you know. And yeah, it's just a lot. It's a lot.
Yeah. No, I get it. But yeah, I feel the same way. There's many days where I feel like even though I've been working all morning, I don't really start work until like 2:30 in the afternoon. And that's always depressing, you know, because but I know that because you know, again, there's just so many business related things you do when you're self-employed. And I mean, that just take away from the part of the work that you really enjoy.
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah.
So, and you know, I have to thank you guys because I'm sure you saw the interview I did with Mike Allred and Laura. That was a lot of fun, and I owe that to you. That was they were, you know, I'd seen them. You know, we've talked briefly before, but that was a real joy getting to hang out with them for a couple hours. And
they're a blast, man. They're just the best.
They're a joy.
Yeah,
they are. I mean, I didn't think Laura was gonna, you know, do the show, and then she stayed the whole time. That made it even more fun just to have them both hanging out and talking about their career and things that excited them about their work. I mean, that was a lot of fun, and I owe you for that. I really appreciate that.
It was fun. It was fun to watch.
Yeah, no, it was. It definitely was a good time. So you know, when we talked last time, you know, we had said one of these days we should do like a tour of your studio, and of course I remembered that at the last minute today. And you were kind enough to send some photographs. So, but even before we look at your studio, though, what's the artwork on the wall behind you?
Behind me, this is a Mike Allred piece for a book that Taki and I did called Synergy. This is a Stan Sakai Usagi Jimbo, which he signed to me, which is very nice. And these are just Mignola prints that I just tore out of books. I mean, I'm obviously a bit of a Mignola fan, you know. He's a big influence on me. So I've got some original pieces of his as well. Next time, we'll have time to clean the studio first. Because speak of packaging, we've got this big table in the middle of the studio right now, just full of stuff for packing and shipping and stuff. So I could only take a couple of little pictures for you, but it would be fun to kind of walk people through the whole setup because it's the only thing in the house that we're proud of.
Well, Emilio likes your Stan Sakai piece, so that's nice. And Emilio's on Facebook, so I wanted to highlight that so that I know a lot of the viewers on YouTube, so they don't see the Facebook comments when they come through. But yeah, so let's show the photos that you sent me. We can because I can see where you're at, and from this first photo, you're in that corner.
Yeah, that's the corner, and you can see all the wires for I can't wait to one day to have a sort of a wireless office. Half of those are just coffee warmers.
Just to keep the coffee.
But the extreme foreground, as we say here in comics, this is a shot from kind of into my art closet, and you can see some Alex Toth books there in the very front. And and my art desk to the left, which is very old. My art desk is probably from about the early 90s, like 1990, 1991 or something. And then I have my computer set up just beyond that. And it's still not the best setup ever. I would like to be able to sort of pivot from my art desk right to my computer because for reference materials and stuff. And, it's a thing. And then behind me there in those manila envelopes, those are all active projects right now. And original art. So like I work half digitally and half traditionally, sort of depending on what the project is. So Blue Book, a lot of it is totally traditional. There are chapters that are totally digital. Books that I've done completely digitally. A book I'm doing in the future is, and Van Gogh is one of them, is all analog. So it still piles up.
Yeah, that's interesting. I know a lot of when I see that monitor on the armature, a lot of artist studios that I've seen, when they need reference material or want to look at reference, they'll have like a large monitor where they can just pull it around, whether they turn it vertically or keep it horizontally when they're looking at character designs and those sorts of things. I mean, that does make for an easy workspace, but yeah, you need like a back-to-back kind of thing, right? So you can just pivot from your chair to the other side. Well,
yeah, definitely. And it's a thing.
Well, you have to tell them about the Wacom.
Oh yeah, behind that armed monitor is my Wacom tablet. So I have a big a 21-inch Cintiq. So I got two screens over there, and I'm thinking of getting something else for my art desk too, because the digital files are kind of too hard to see on my tiny phone. So maybe I'll get like a secondary cheap slate or something like that.
Except you have an iPhone.
That's what I mean. It's too small,
Oh, it is.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because
I got that. I mean.
Yeah, but it's the whole thing.
Oh.
We'll figure it out.
So yeah, it looks like you have at least six.
Whole thing for the screen.
It may be. I don't know. I don't. It's a constant. It's like a Tetris problem that never ends. Like your art studio and your art setup. Like it's this constant switching out of pens, and let's put this thing over there, and let's try this thing. Like we just went through 4 lamps.
No, just 5.
5 lamps.
5 lamps just now because I had to buy another one.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's I always envy these artists who seem to like have their setups down pat, because I cannot.
Well, I mean, for you, it's a little tricky because you have the, you're working traditionally, you've got some digital stuff you have to do. So, you really have to have almost multiple workspaces.
Yeah, it makes it tricky for sure.
But I saw there was at least 6 manila packages there. So you have several projects ongoing right now.
Yeah. And I'm so painfully excited. We still can't talk about it until like the deal's done. But again, during the pandemic, there was another thing I did with another creator that Taki and I did with another creator. It's like 6 issues. Mm-hmm. And it's just taking forever for like contractual stuff and stuff. But like there's a whole other thing that's just sitting there waiting to be seen. So I'm but again, I don't want to get ahead of ourselves with just talking about projects that we don't see for a while.
Well, it'll give us a lot to talk about the next time we do one of these.
Definitely.
So let's show another angle from the studio. So this is looking the other way, and there's a Yamaha strap there. What's that for?
There's a what?
I see like there's
strap, that's your
yeah, that's my headphones. I just like throw it.
You throw it over the top.
But that's actually my view right now. So this is where I'm sitting at my computer, looking over to the left towards my art. So in that closet, well, you'll see those books there. Those are stuff. They're either references or just influence. Like just stuff that, there's a lot of Mignola books and Alex Toth books and Steve Rude books. That's most of what those shelves are. And then behind that in the closet is huge amounts of artwork. And we'll take a look at that later. And also that Powers piece was just from the television show. They were nice enough to send me this poster when the show wrapped and stuff. So
we have all the characters too, but just
no space.
Yeah.
And my ego is not that big. I already have one giant poster myself.
Hey, if I was making comics and somebody sent me a poster that size, it would be on my wall.
And you can also see a David Peterson drawing there too. That's a mouse guard piece on.
I was going to ask you about that because it does. looked like a work of
as the Spectre.
But let's see here. So I guess we can look at let's look at this one first. Is here this is in the closet, but it's also is that Taki's work desk, because it looks very neat.
That's my third work desk.
That's your third work. Okay.
But downstairs in the living room, I have another desk set up because sometimes I'll work till 9:30, 10 o'clock at night. So that way I can hang out with Taki while I'm working and stuff. And you can see from that picture why I needed another lamp. This bizarre lamp came so small that the light bulb was like halfway out. I'm like, who designed this? But anyway, so we just got this desk and we set it up there because I was kind of working on the couch for a while and it was just killing my neck. So this is a smaller desk. It's much smaller than it looks here. It's just the perfect size for downstairs. And sometimes it's nice to just work by that window too, and especially when it's gloomy and rainy out. That really helps the mood.
Yeah.
And then next to it is half of that closet I was talking about. So they're full of these drawers. Each drawer is about 3 to 4 inches thick or deep. They're all full of artwork from Powers, Mice Templar, all of our different projects and stuff. And then on top of those are more envelopes, also full of stuff from like Victories and Synergy and like all the creator-owned stuff that I've worked on over the years, and work for hire things and television designs. And you can see some of our packing material there as well.
Yeah.
So this closet is full of, both sides are just completely packed with that. And separately from there, I also have another sort of big case that's just holding art from probably the past 2 or 3 years.
That's nice. Is that the artwork on the top there? Is that the poster artwork?
That's funny enough. That is that Retro Girl piece is from the poster that you see on the wall. And I didn't grab that for any particular reason. This is just in situ, as the archaeologist would say.
It happened to be there. Let's see. And then I did have that other one here, just everything bursting at the seams. So
yeah, just more artwork. On the left is the other drawer. And I opened them up below just so you get kind of a sense of, they're all packed. And then all the artwork on top of it. Yeah, you need another. Some very, very old programs we should probably get rid of on top of that, like old PC like modeling programs, and I don't know what is.
Right. No, I used to, being in computers for as long as I have been, I had a whole shelf that looked like that before we moved, and I did throw out 90% of the old CD-ROMs and things that I'm never going to use it again. Except
now we're learning, like, we really should be backing up our stuff on stuff like CDs, because even your hard drives can die or get wiped out and stuff. And like, real programs I've talked to have said they still back up stuff on disks because they'll last longer.
True, that is true. I don't do it, unfortunately. I've been using the cloud to back up things more than anything else lately. But still, this is an amazing amount of artwork. I mean,
and those aren't the sketchbooks. Like, one day I'll take a picture of the sketchbooks. I have all the sketchbooks I've ever done. And what I'm trying to do now is, like, this latest project I'm working on, I'm trying to do all the layouts in the sketchbook, and then I'm going to experiment to see if we can sell a sketchbook that has, like, the full issue is laid out.
Right.
My layouts are relatively tight. You might even see one of them with the sales.
That is true. I've got the layouts for a page. One of the pages here from Blue Book. But yeah, that's pretty awesome. But again, you have you need another filing cabinet. I think it looks like
I actually do. I need a third one of those big weight.
Yeah. I mean, there are more art, like, just all over.
Stashes of art.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with that. A lot of artists keep their art, right, or only sell a few things, and for whatever reasons,
and let me say to the people watching, like, I don't do conventions almost at all anymore, and I haven't for years. I'll stop in locally at, like, Portland, but even then, I'm not into carrying my stuff with me or anything like that. So you're kind of it right now. You're the outlet. I'll sell a little bit online on my website, but not very much, because again, we're just busy. So, like, I want to thank you, because you allow us to get stuff out there. Because otherwise, time-wise, it's just always like, oh, I just need to hit this next deadline and stuff. So this is kind of it. This is how we're currently just interfacing our artwork with everybody right now.
Sure. Well, that's awesome. I think, maybe for future shows, we should just have people suggest, what era of artwork they might like to see, right? Maybe a Mice Templar page or two, or something from Powers, from specific issues. We might just, at least having suggestions on what to bring wouldn't be a bad thing.
Yeah, if you're a hardcore fan, I mean, I still got stuff from like the early 2000s, like Quixote art and 86 Volts and Hammer the Gods, and, all that kind of stuff.
I'm not a lot, but
notes. Got it. Yeah.
But is that so? Like you said, you don't go to shows too often. So is that about the time when the artwork prior to that might have gotten sold at shows when you were out, but after a certain point, you just stopped going to shows and
I slowed down probably around 2014, and then really stopped around 2016. And it's not that I have anything against shows, and I'll do them again in the future. Some of it's health. Some of it's just work. Being a little older now, I just can't recover as quickly. I used to come back from a show with my bags in hand, throw the bags down, have something to drink, and get ready to work. And now I need like a week to recover, to even think about it. And it just, and going into it is the same thing. It also sort of disrupts everything. So it's not that I have a problem with shows or anything like that. It's just, life changes, and, that's it.
Mm-hmm. So William wanted to know, have you ever considered doing a sketchbook through Kickstarter, sort of like Mike Hawthorne's done and many other artists? But when you were talking about the sketchbooks.
Hi, William. Actually, I started working on a follow-up to No Plan B. Unfortunately, or fortunately, just work came along, both work for hire and otherwise, that put it on hold. Mm-hmm. But I had gathered everything and was timely up to a point, but now there's this another gap between, I think it was around 2019 and now, where there's all this new stuff. So it's hard to put together. But yeah, I am seriously considering doing like a real Kickstarter sketchbook, like Mike Hawthorne, who's another artist who I really just love and admire. And I just try to do what he does.
Same here. Yeah, well, that would be good. I can tell you that having some art level rewards to your Kickstarter would go over well with the fan audience.
So. Yeah, when I do my book, The After Realm, there's always artwork for that. But again, it's difficult to ship out, and I always feel bad because like I have a guy who ships all my books out, but I have to ship out the art. And even though I gave myself like good 4 or 5 months ahead of time, I still barely got it out at the end. It's just, it's hard.
I get it. That's why, we are actually going to be offering a few books here today. And I did a show with Howard Chaykin a few weeks back, and he had some books. And for that sales show, I had the books here. And so I had to ship books and art. And that was a challenge. So we're doing a thing today. Actually, Jim McLaughlin has all the books and I have the art. So we kind of decided to separate the duties there because doing both wasn't easy.
We'll have to ask you about like behind the scenes, some of your shipping tips, maybe you can make a show out of that, even like how you ship books.
We've talked about it. I mean, there's a few guys, collectors that I've gotten very good tips from, but I ship in Masonite and so I make sure it's, as protected as it can be versus putting it in cardboard. Although there's a lot of good cardboard options for shipping art these days too. There's custom stuff that's out there. I know a rep or two that it uses, custom layered cardboard. It's cool. But I've always just relied on Masonite because I just feel like that thing would get destroyed if it's broken in Masonite, but if it were in cardboard, the same damage might not, it's hard to say, but anyway, exactly. I could, but the thing was, I didn't know how to ship books, and then they actually make all those mailers for books too. So
we just recently started, I started asking myself, well, I get these from like Dark Horse when they send me comps, like, can you just buy these? And then I realized, oh, you don't have to like cut everything down, but I don't know. And then you're also sort of just, anyway, this is too deep. Shop talk.
Right, it is, but we can talk after the show about it and how our love-hate relationship with it. But I'm trying to look through the chat, make sure I don't miss anything. But there's I saw like a couple of people were talking about wanting to see what was in the in all those manila folders, and the suggestion of getting an intern to help out scanning one day isn't a bad idea. But you probably have scans of that stuff already, right? I mean, you've had to have scanned it in and sent it somewhere.
Everything's scanned. but it's been years. The problem is I wasn't always organized. Like, so when you see things in envelopes now that tell you that, like, even those I don't always bother to write the page number down. Which it sounds simple, but like when you're just like, oh, I gotta get the page. Like I draw like I'm being chased, you know, so I'll just skip certain steps like page numbers. But at least now they're envelopes. For the longest time, they were just piles of like mixed stuff. So it's a long process of just sort of getting things together. And then, yeah, even with interns, the problem is like you have to treat interns like people. And like if you don't have time, you know, you don't want to just say, oh, go do this thing. Like you need to spend time to walk them through the process and to tell them what exactly it is. And that's time. And time is more precious, almost more precious than money, really. Mm-hmm. And that's always a catch-22. Like you can get help. Like I used to have help with backgrounds and stuff like that. But even that became, I realized, oh, all the time that I spent with this person to talk them through the backgrounds, I probably could have had it mostly done, you know. It's all catch-22 or just neurosis. I don't know which it is.
Yeah, I missed this comment earlier, but Pat Y said that they liked the art that you did in the single issue of The Spirit.
Thank you. That's probably the thing I'm still the very most proud of in my whole career is that single issue. Got to write and draw an issue of The Spirit, and it created breakthroughs in my own mind as I was working on that, which then you saw cascade through all the rest of my work. Like any interesting layouts really started from there. Everything I did pre The Spirit was very much, I looked at it like cake with no icing. Like I wasn't really interested in like panels breaking open and stuff. I was just interested in really hardcore panel to panel storytelling, very straightforward, and clarity was king. But after like, you know, steeping myself in Eisner's work, that's when I really saw the pages. Can I look at this as like this 3-dimensional thing that's a journey across the page and stuff. So thank you for bringing that up.
You know, I hate to say I didn't see it. I'm going to have to look it up now.
It's a hard one to find. Yeah.
Is it? Well,
yeah, because of copyright and stuff. So it was done at DC, and then the rights go to someplace else, and sometimes they'll collect it, and sometimes they won't. And yeah.
Well, that's cool. And you know, I assume the reason you keep those books nearby, the ones with Steve Rude art, Alex Toth, I mean, they're right by your drawing table. Is that something that, you look at them, not necessarily for inspiration, but just to see, like, you know, to immerse yourself in creators that you really love? I mean, outside of those two, I mean, who are other artists whose work you really like to look at?
Outside of them, I mean, Buscema and Kirby are perfect for when I'm actually working on superhero stuff, because they just have a level of energy that I just can't capture. Sometimes I have to look at like a layout of a fight scene. It's not that I'm copying the actual layout, but I need to copy the feeling of the layout. You know, the sense of proportion, like how close the camera is versus how far the camera is. How much of the characters you see their frontal parts, or, you know, like their face and chest versus, oh, it's not necessary in this kind of fight or something. So those are big influences. Eric Canetti is another one where if I just need a body to look like it's moving, even when it's staying still, like he's so good at choosing how he aligns his line work with the shape and proportions of the body, that somebody can just be standing still, but they look like they're moving somehow, or they look like Jello or something, you know, like there's like that like when you freeze frame like a Disney animation, you know, and everything is like elastic and stuff, and he can do that even if a character's standing still. So those are some of the guys I'll look at from time to time.
That's cool. I just saw a comment from my friend Kaz where he said Mike drew a great Modoc smoking a la Kirby piece at a Baltimore Comic-Con around 2006, and then he thinks that you arm wrestled with them.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
That thing he did at conventions, or was that just random for that day?
There was 2 conventions where I did that at, or 3. It was there was the Emerald City Comic-Con. Just unannounced that we talked to Jim this idea of like, if you donated $20 to the Heroes Initiative, and I just had my big piles of art with me. If you beat me, you won a page of powers or whatever. You just pick through it, whatever you wanted, even if it was a great page or whatever. And I think that initial arm wrestling thing, it's like the number sounds insane to me, but it was somewhere between like 50 and 70 people. I think maybe more, but it's so long ago. It's you know, I'm not sure.
You didn't do back arm wrestling with the 50 to 70, did you?
Yeah, and I only lost like 5 or something like that. Then I did it again in Baltimore, and it was a surprise, and we had fun. Then when I did it the third time, at that point, people had started training or sending in ringers. And
We
that's when I
comic
realized,
collectors are savvy like that.
yeah, that's when I realized I'm gonna snap something.
Right.
Like something in my arm was gonna break, so I had to, stop. So it was really fun. It was really fun and a great way to raise money. We raised a lot of good cash.
Right.
Um,
I don't know how I missed
yeah.
that. I mean, that
It
that
was a
sounds
long
like,
time ago, there is
yeah.
some videos on YouTube you can find. And
Oh,
again,
I'm
like Heroes Initiative, we were involved with them like way early back when they were still called Actor.
right.
And I never would have imagined many years later they would come to our rescue as Taki was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. And at the beginning of that, they're like I think we lost him. Oh no, we're back. Okay.
Nope.
But at the beginning of that diagnosis, it was not only was it emotionally scary, but there was like finance, like suddenly huge hospital bills to even figure out what this was. And Here's
Well, and
Initiative helped
before
us
that,
out.
I was at the emergency rooms and all these things. So many like trips to the hospitals and stuff. All the bills are piling up before the diagnosis too.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, they were there for us, and we never expected that to happen. And I always encourage people to give to the Heroes Initiatives, or just at least help spread the word. Like even if you don't have money, like things are hard right now with inflation and all that stuff. Just retweet or share on Facebook and stuff. And
Oh yeah. No, I've same time period for me. I started working with Jim when it was still Actor, and I've always promoted everything that they've got going and encouraged art collectors to it's good. They have the eBay auctions where they raise money that way. You can get a piece of art and you're still supporting them. I mean, there's lots of ways that you can support the Hero Initiative. So
yeah,
very good cause, and that's kind of. And Jim's still out there doing the good thing, right? I mean, and he brought us together to do these things. I did a Hero Initiative, show that was all the art exclusively was to benefit them about a year ago. So yeah, I love those guys. I love everybody over there.
So cool.
So we probably, we're about the hour point here. We might want to just kind of jump in and look at some of the art for sale that we brought. Was timing good for you?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. Now we do have 11 new artworks today, and we've got 11 artworks that I think were on the first and second show, probably most from the second show, that have been repriced, dramatically reduced for people. So we just thought that before we send them back to Mike and Taki, we give them one other look at them. And we do have a couple of we have a signed copy of it was let me get I don't want to pull the lot up on the screen yet, but from Murder Inc. Volume 2, right? That was the Versus America storyline, so we have a signed version of that on the cover, and then we have a remarked version on the inside front cover, and I'll show slides for those. So, but the only thing I would want everybody to know with regards to that is the books will be shipping separate from the art. So if you want, I know that when I did the show where we were shipping the books and the art, there were a lot of people who bought both, and it was easy to combine on shipping on those. But in this case, the books are shipping separate from the artwork, so we can't combine on shipping for those things. But we'll go over that as best we can when we get to it. But let me go over the ground rules one last time on everything here. So here you go. So you're going to email me after the show if you've claimed any of the artworks that you see today. There will be numbered lots 1 through 22, and we've got an A and a B lot for the signed books. We'll need payment in 48 hours of the show after I invoice you. If you're paying through PayPal, we'll have a service fee of 4% for U.S. and 5.5% international. And yes, Canada is international, unfortunately. So for those of you in Canada, I just wanted to stress that because they do take 5.5%. There's no fee with Zelle, and I do allow for checks to be sent in as long as they're in the mail by Monday at the latest. So, and it's shipping for all this that you see today. For the art is domestic is 30, international 65. I ship everything in Masonite, well packed. Anybody who's got artwork from me, I know Josh Flanders got something from me recently, so he knows everything gets shipped and packed really well, and I pretty much get everything out within a couple days of getting payment. So that's why we like to get the payment in 48 hours. That I have the art with me. We'll be able to get the art in the mail no later than, if the payment happens by Monday, it'll be in the mail no later than Wednesday. You should have it by the end of this week or the beginning of the following week. So we like to turn things around really quickly. But again, after the show, emails go out to me, bill@comicartfans.com, for anything that you've claimed, and I'll get you the invoices. All right. I think that covered everything. No questions from the audience. Josh is giving me a pat on the back saying it was beautifully packed. Yep. Thank you so much, Josh.
Yeah.
I learned from a couple friends who ship a lot of artwork. They told me to put like a bright color on things because they've had a few pieces get lost in the trucks because masonite being brown. They'll put it on a shelf that's brown, and then they won't see it. So I ended up when I pack everything, we actually put 2 straps of yellow tape around either end, so that all the way around, and a sticker on both sides. So you will, there's no way you can, lose this thing.
Like your suitcase at the airport.
Right, exactly. My friend Mark Hayes said he had a piece of art that was lost for that reason for about 6 months one time, and then they just found it just sitting on the shelf. So that's what he stressed me. Use something colorful on your packaging. So I do that. And Chris Finnegan says, all right, everybody thinks I'm doing a good job packing. All right. All right, let's get into this. So like I say, first up, I'm going to show the book so everybody can know what we got here from this. The first lot A, and I think we've got probably about a dozen of these, if I recall what Jim told me. I mean, is that true, Mike? A dozen of these, and I think maybe...
I think we said 20.
Oh, was it 20? Okay.
8
All right,
or
wait, like 8 are... So, some are signed and some are 8 are drawn on. And then I think 10 are signed, something like that. I can't do
right. So maybe it's like 12, somewhere around in there. 12. We have at least 12 of these, I think, and 8 of the remarks. So lot A, it's priced $25. The shipping on the books are $9 domestic, $30 international. And you can see with the image on the right or on the left, the signature there on the cover of this. And of course, you've got the other one, lot B, and that is the remark version. Now it's not signed on the front, it's signed on with the remark. You got that on the inside front cover. Same prices on the shipping for these are $9 domestic and $30 international. Price on lot B is $60. So you can claim them in the chat, and I can make notes here of that, or if you just want to email me for those, we can. Oh, and I just got a text from Jim, 12 auto only and 8 remarks. So there you have it. Confirmation from the books.
I didn't necessarily plan it this way, but this is the trade just before the new one that's coming out. So if you get this, if you have the first one and then you get this, it'll catch you up for the third series coming out
very soon.
I was going to ask you how it was that you chose this book, but that makes sense now because this is, like you said, it's coming out in May, right? I
also chose it because I thought that the first volume people would have at this point. Like I ran into that with Powers for a long time. I would carry around all the first trades and then realize, at this point, if you're interested in the series, you've got the trade already. So we thought that the second one would be a good place to go.
Right. Okay. So that makes sense. So like I say, you can add these when you're claiming artwork. You can email me directly, bill@comicartfans.com for those. And we've got enough of them to go around. And we haven't done this, only the second time we've done books, but I think it's another opportunity. Like you say, you don't get out to shows, so you're not signing stuff for people and certainly not remarking anything too often. So this is a rare opportunity for you, Mike. All right, now let's get into the art. 11 pieces are new, like I said, and 11 pieces will be pieces we've seen before. So first up is lot 1. This is a Powers Bureau 3 cover, and it's signed by Bendis. I always want to make a note of that when that's the case. This one's priced at $1,100. Fun cover for you to do. I mean, when you know the story going into it, I mean, do you start thinking about what the cover should be?
Most of Powers, like they're rarely ever aligned with the actual story within it. The trades are definitely aligned with the story for the most part, but usually it's just capturing a mood for that arc. And I don't remember what was going on with this issue. I think there was some disappearing character. So like I think that's why there was a sort of wispy lines going across stuff as they're going through the investigation. And you can see I drew this first somewhere in the sketchbook, either in a sketchbook or probably on like some 11 by 17 paper. And then I scanned it in blue line, or printed it out on paper on blue line, which is why you see like the blue shading in there. So that's sort of the digital aspect of the process, and then the rest is done in pen and ink.
Now, do you always work where you your prelims are done on something separate, and then you transfer it to the final 11 by 17?
Sometimes I'll use a light box to just directly trace over my layouts, but I tend to work less with the light box because, again, just eye strain. You've got that light coming in on the sides, and you have to like dim the light around you so you can see through it, and so I try to use that a little less often because it's not that healthy for your eyes. So I do a lot of the blue line work.
Oh, that makes sense. So
consistent process.
Now, I think that's interesting. So why the approach to just kind of doing the image on the cover, not necessarily directly related to what's inside? I mean, what's the thought process there?
I think it just developed with us, like, because early on we did a lot of concept covers. So there was like album covers,
cool.
And they were like pop culture reference covers and stuff. So I think that just got us on Powers into the habit of doing things that said something about Powers overall as opposed to individual issues. Although from time to time we definitely do stuff that reflects what's in the book. Recently I've really been having fun, especially on Blue Book, because it has like an older feel to it. I like that books in the 60s and 70s often just reproduced panels on the cover, redrawn and all that stuff. So I've been having fun like taking an interior and putting it onto a cover. But most of these were sort of concept pieces, I guess you can call them.
But I do love the composition, like, and the concept behind it. The composition is like so classic comic book. You start from top of the left, and then you kind of flow your way through to the right, and it invites you into the page.
Oh, thank you.
No, I love it, and I like that idea too. I mean, it makes sense if that being the kind of the theme for most of the Powers covers is, you're looking for something that, I mean, it gives you the opportunity to be a little creative and put a little spin on something that's. I mean, does Bendis give you any suggestions, or is it really more up to you? I guess that'd be the only other question on the covers.
We have a really weird way of working together, and like I'll just do anything, and he'll either love it or he won't, and I'll just do a whole other cover. And because of my love for Powers, like that's not a problem. Like that's typically not how you work with other people and stuff. I do a lot of quick sketches, and I'll send those over. Usually when it is interesting, Brian almost never really sends notes back on art. Like he's a kind of writer, especially on interior pages, he'll roll with whatever I draw him. And part of that has to do with like we're in simpatico when it comes to the page, right? But on the covers, sometimes we have differences of opinions. But again, because I love drawing Powers, like it's fine. Like I think we have a piece that wasn't published, and it was probably one of these pieces that I just did, and I'm willing to do that. So it's also on me that, sometimes I'll just draw something without talking to him about it first.
Right. Well, this lot, so lot one's still out there. Lot two is the unused cover that you were just mentioning.
Okay.
And is this one that, after you showed him, and it's dated 2013 too. So this was done 10 years ago. Is this one, you don't remember why it wasn't used? It's beautiful.
Yeah, I can't tell you the context. It might not even have been a cover piece. Like maybe I had done it for a promo piece, because this is around the time we were doing the TV show. So it could have easily had tied into that, or I was just creating an original print to take to conventions at the time. But I don't think I ever made it into a print either. But I do really like it a lot. I mean, it's kind of weird that Walker is sliding on an invisible floor sideways. There's some interesting stuff going on in here for sure. And I love the just classic poses. And then the mask motif is something I do a lot. There's like a lot of covers with dropping masks and stuff, because obviously that fits in with Powers. But despite not using it as a cover, it's a piece I really, really love. I'm really happy with like his clothing, the way that the wrinkles turned out, like it's bending with his torso and stuff. So I'm not great at drapery. You know, I do pretty abstract drapery work and stuff. So when it works, I'm very happy with it.
No, Michael Perlin says he says he knows that piece.
That's right. I actually, you know, when I was putting this together, I had trouble figuring out, well, was this published or wasn't? You know, there used to be certain websites that were great for just listing every single thing. And so I reached out to Michael because Michael is one of, you know, you hear about like George R.R. Martin on Game of Thrones. He started working with some of his fans because some of his fans knew his world better than he did when it came to like references and when things happened in history and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And Michael Perlman's the equivalent of that, not just for myself, but also for other creators. So I knew when I couldn't figure it out, I knew Brian wouldn't know. And then even Nick Filardi's colored so many stuff, like it becomes a blur over 20 years or whatever. So I reached out to Perlman, and I think he probably knew immediately that it wasn't a cover, but he then went ahead and did research anyway and told me that it was never actually published. And then he sent me some other resources, which were great for the future for me to help figure that stuff out.
I love that it has so much like kinetic movement. You know, like it doesn't feel like it's settled. You know, like if this was like hanging on your wall, like it will look like it's just gonna move.
Yeah, I'm pretty happy with the movement from this.
Yeah.
You know, on this one, and really on all of the pages, I was going to ask, because again, I've only gotten to handle a few pieces that I got from you. Thank you for getting me those Cave Carson pieces after the last show. But typically, you're working on the back of the board, right? I mean, is that by choice? Because you do work edge to edge on all the pieces. Typically, even I should have probably shown. This piece here again, it's edge to edge, but it is on the back of a standard art board. So is that it's got to be a choice of yours that you're always working
for sure. Yeah, I use the Canson comic book art board, which I find is just the right everything for me.
Texture, thickness.
But I just don't like blue line on the piece because I like when I scan it in, I can choose to then, bring it a little closer and fill out the edges or vice versa. I guess I just never trusted crop marks, if that makes sense. Like even when I would see original art and I'd see the artist like just stop drawing at the right thing, I'm partially confused because even though comic books are all published at the same size, every comic book publisher has a different template. Mm-hmm. So, and I'm not technical at all. Like I'll ask for a template, and instead of them sending me like a physical template, they'll send me the measurements, and I'm like, dude. And then there's just the cleanliness of it. Like when you're looking at I think that was probably a Lightbox piece because I don't think there's any blue line art on it. So what you're seeing there is it's just pure ink. I think.
Yeah, but that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense, and I can see why you'd want to work that way.
But I should write the page numbers on the back. I mean, it's right there. It says page on the blue line part, right?
Well, on one it does. The first one says Powers FBI 2012 cover, so it has a note on that one. The second one does. Well, the second one's unused, so maybe that's why it doesn't have a notation on the back. And there was a question from J. Robert Deans. Mike, do you pencil analog or digitally when you do your blue line?
Both. I've recently been trying to stick more with analog, just because I noticed when I was working heavily digitally, like on Dick Tracy, everything was analog, even the pencils. And then I just noticed I didn't feel as familiar with my pen and ink when I was, just playing around on pencil and paper, and I realized, I'm not using those muscles. And what's important about those muscles is that each one informs the other. So the way I draw analog informs the way that I draw digitally and vice versa. Like there's a specific kind of line quality that I get working digitally that I don't necessarily get working analog. And it's not that I can't reproduce those. It's just, it's more time intensive and it's a different thing. So I don't mean quality as good as, I just mean there's a specific kind of feel and effect. And when I'm working analog or digitally, sometimes I'm fine with it with that look, like Murder Inc. and Dick Tracy has, for me, a very digital look, and I'm very happy with. But then there's other times where I'm mixing and matching, and I want to make sure that I can draw digitally in a way that still feels analog. And Blue Book is a good example of that. The first half, issue 1 of Blue Book is all analog. Issue 2 is all digital, but I tried to make sure that like my brushes weren't perfect, that there was a wobbliness to it, that there was a thickness to it, because working analog, you can just get so much thinner. So when I'm working digitally, often I am picturing in my head that my Cintiq pen is a specific marker, or it's a specific pen. Like it's a Pigma Micron 01, or it's a Pigma Micron 1, or it's a ballpoint pen. And then I try and think about what that feels like as I'm drawing. So that's why I go back and forth between the two. And I'm always amazed at these people like Jason Sean Alexander. Pardon me. He's like a painter, and he, it's just, but he works analog, and it looks the same thing as if he's painting with like a toothbrush and he's throwing stuff on the page. And I'm amazed by that. So that's something I strive for, is to keep, just a certain amount of life into the digital stuff by thinking of it as analog.
Well, that makes a lot of sense, and I love Jason's artwork as well.
Yeah,
he definitely has a really cool style, and I'm always impressed by everything he turns out.
He's a great person too. That always helps.
Yes. Now, next up, I've got an interior page here. So let me switch over and highlight this one. So this is lot 3, priced at $800. Power's best ever trip, retro girl. You got Wolf Walker. It's on 11 by 17. And you didn't send a lot of interior pages. So why this one? What was the because what was going on in here that made this one be the one that you wanted to send?
This one was really special because of who was on the page. So you have Walker as his Millennium character in his earliest days. So if you've been reading Power since the beginning, and we knew that he was this hero in his past, this is him in his quote younger years, early on. Like he doesn't even have a full costume yet; just has the beginning of that mask. And the Wolf is on here, and the Wolf is his main nemesis throughout the series. It was brilliantly played by Eddie Izzard on the television show. Yeah. Obviously, we have Retro Girl and Trip Hammer, who are huge parts of the history. And then there's even in the bottom right-hand corner is a shot of Henry. I'm forgetting his first name. He's our scummy journalist who we've had throughout the series, who's been really fun to write and draw because he's just horrible. So that's why I picked this up. This was the early days of Powers with all the characters. And this is in the final storyline of Powers, the best ever trade.
That's a great page. I'm just looking it over. I mean, it's beautiful.
Ted Henry, that's his name.
Oh, sorry. I love looking at the art. All right, yes, and Marcus, there is a lot of bricks on this one too. I saw that. And a question from Shelley was, you're using Clip Studio? Is that?
Yeah, when I work digitally, I work almost exclusively in Clip Studio, and mostly on my iPad Pro. It's just super versatile, and you can just carry it with you everywhere. I love Clip Studio. I'm in the shallow end of Clip Studio, even using it for years. There's so much you can use with it. It's a very light program. It's not incredibly costly, and it's literally designed for comics. No matter what style of comics you're doing. So highly recommend it if you're into it. And I know that what's the other one? Procreate is also very popular, but we haven't tried it yet.
Yeah, I've heard that too. Great layout on this page too. I love it.
Somebody asked, do you think you could beat Christian Walker up in an arm wrestling match? He has some huge arms.
I can't beat up anybody anymore. I've never been in a fight, so whoever you are, if you punch me, I'm probably going down like a sack of potatoes because I've just never experienced. I've never experienced it. So yeah. And same thing with arm wrestling. I'm not doing that stuff anymore.
But you used to train in arm wrestling, though. That was the thing.
I didn't train. I was the way I was born without height. I was born with muscles.
It compacted everything.
So I can't take any credit for it. It's not like
it was in your DNA.
I'm just gonna tell you, I'm basically just a hobbit.
All right. Well, lot 3 is still out there too. Let's take a look at lot 4. This is another interior splash page. This one's priced at $600. Walker and retro on this one, and again, it's edge to edge. I guess I should have held it up before I went off camera here, but again, that's what's cool about the pages from you is literally every piece of art. Everything goes to the edge of the board, which, like you said, it's just not normal to see. But it's impressive to have you working like that.
No, thanks. But now I realize though, it's got to be aggravating to frame if you have like a mat.
Well, let's not worry about that.
Yeah, that's not my problem. I'm giving you everything. I'm giving you full page. The whole page. Yeah, and this is also from the best ever, and this represents the very first time Walker and Retro Girl meet. So it's kind of a big moment for the comic.
Giancarlo, hey Giancarlo, I saw you earlier. I meant to say hi, but this is not a commission. I know we didn't write down the issue and page number on this one, but this is not a commission. This is a published.
Oh yeah, no, this is definitely a page from the best ever graphic novel, or it's called The Best Ever. Yeah, and it's when Walker and Retro Girl meet for the very first time. I didn't have the page number because we didn't number the comic, so I didn't want to like flip through like one, and it's like a 200-page graphic novel. So
yeah,
I'm lazy.
Oh no.
I'm typing to Giancarlo because he says he doesn't have sound, so maybe he's at work, so he can't listen to it. But yes, Giancarlo, I know you really enjoy Powers, and yes, it's a published page, even though you can't hear me. But it's nice to have you. I know Giancarlo for a while. Yeah, they're thanking me for that. Nice. I don't see him in the chat too often, so it's cool. But very nice piece here, and I can see the blue layout a bit on this one. But this is a sweet splash page on here.
Cool.
And yeah, here you go. I should have held it up first. There you go.
Oh, wow. That looks so good. Like that.
And I don't think anybody's going to worry about how they're going to frame it. At the end of the day.
That's true.
No, I mean, it's cool to have it like this, I think. And it gives them a little bit of choice when they're pulling the book together, right? And how they might maybe crop a little bit here or there. But no, there it is. So now this next piece is not Powers. And I know that this one is special to you because it's the last Dick Tracy cover that you have.
Yeah.
Right? You've sold all the other ones, and this is the last, maybe even the best one. I mean, they're all pretty impressive.
Thanks, man.
But what that had been a lot of fun, and I can just kind of show it this way. But as far as a series to work on, I mean, it's like right up your alley as far as crime story, noir, tough guys. I mean.
It was more fun than I ever could have imagined. First of all, Brian and I had been trying to do Dick Tracy together for forever. And we got very close for a while. But then there was like copyright issues, and then it went away again. And when this opportunity came up, I leapt right at it. And what I loved about it was I connected to it in a way that I never would have expected. Like my earliest interest in doing Dick Tracy with Brian was it was with Brian. B was a legendary character, and I can't say that I was well educated on the character or really understood the world, but in getting this assignment and then doing research on it, and then realized, oh wow, I really love drawing this time period, this like pre-World War I, it was just this really, it was modern, but it also felt Victorian, and you had all like the great conventions of crime noir and cliches, but in like the best ways. Mm-hmm. And then the characters were fun, so that there was this threat of things like violence and death, but it was also balanced out with like humor. And because the characters are so abstract, it wasn't like real death, or it wasn't that dark. They balanced each other out in such a perfect way. So I had a lot of fun, and I would draw and write Dick Tracy again in a second. It was one of the most fun I've had doing something creative. And it was fun because like one of the big things I was thinking about was how often Dick Tracy's brought back, and like, why does he work best? I still think he works best in his time period in those late 1930s.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also important to make him relevant and try him out in different time periods. So this whole story arc was Dick Tracy, 4 issues. The first issue was the 20s, the second or the 30s. The second issue was in the 40s or 50s. I'm sorry, the 50s. Then it was current time period, and that's what this cover is for. And that's why he's on like a modern car and trying to figure out like, well, what still works for Dick Tracy in today's time period.
Right.
And the 4th issue was the future, so we could see Dick Tracy operating in the future. Just the best time, and I did all of the interiors were analog, even the layouts. So the only pieces that exist from this run are those covers, and this is the last one.
Oh, here, let's go ahead and take a look at that one. So, like you said, this is from Current Times. Vape, you got an upside down McDonald's there. This is lot 5. It's priced at $1,200, and it's absolutely gorgeous.
McDonald's, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, these are fun, and you're right. All analog here. I see no blue line whatsoever on here. And
yeah,
again,
I think I drew it digitally, and then I printed out that digital thing. So this is light boxed from a printout. So there's all that there is the digital files for this. And if anybody buys it, I mean, if they're interested in the digital files, I can send you the digital files as well. That wouldn't be a problem. So you could see what was underneath all of this.
Yeah, it's a great image. I mean, all of the Dick Tracy covers were pretty spectacular. I mean, this one's really nice, and I really like the futuristic one as well. I remember we had that on the show, maybe the first show, I think. Yeah, just great imagery.
Thanks, man. Yeah, it's just one of those projects that the project itself, the material itself, brought something to me in the finished project. It was just hard to explain. Sometimes I'll do something for Marvel and DC, like a superhero book, and it's really cool to draw this superhero, and it's great to be part of that tradition. And then sometimes you get to draw a character. Superman is like that. Batman is like that. The Spirit issue, like I said, it changed the way I draw comics or laid out comics. Dick Tracy is the same. I might not ever get to do Dick Tracy again, but I've already created something Dick Tracy like that I will pursue in the future if I never get to do Dick Tracy. Like I had to think about, well, what were those elements that I enjoyed? There's almost this like, and there's something about that time period. Like I would also really like to do a Popeye comic that takes place in like the late 30s, early 30s or something. There's just something about that time period that I'm finding that I'm clicking with. And Dick Tracy just had this whole other world that informed everything from the line weight. Like, look at his face. Like, that is just one of the best designs ever. I didn't design it. I'm doing my best to just stick to my brain is
Gould.
Thank you. Yeah, Chester Gould. Just the best designed face of all time. Like, it just says so much. It does so much work for you. Just if you get the face right, you're done.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, I've always wanted to get a Dick Tracy strip from Chester Gould, and I haven't bought one yet. I mean, I've seen enough of them. I should get one, but just for that same reason. I mean, one of the most iconic characters out there, and Gould he just did such a fine job. I mean, it was amazing. So, and
all the villains he created too. Just
what's that? Yeah,
and all the villains he created was just such a great, rogues gallery. It was just so insane.
Yeah, no, and Shelley mentioned that Dick Tracy would like to work with you again, I'm sure, when you
oh, thank you, Shelley.
All right, well, that one's still out there as well. $1,200 on that the last Dick Tracy cover that you've got. So we're going to move into some Blue Book pages now. And this first one is the one that actually has the a layout that goes along with it, a layout page. So the other ones don't. This is the only one that doesn't. So you'll see it on the on the slide when I show it, but just so you can see, it's also done on the same size board. And and there's a lot of reasons why I like this page, but that last panel is just really fun. I just loved it. The look on his face, looking at the saucer, the grill of the car in front of him. I mean, that's pretty slick.
Well, the grill, like, so you can see a lot of like my thought process here. So the car, again, it's got to be a combination. It's not like I can't draw cars. I just, for whatever reason, I don't enjoy it. Like I just don't like it. It just, I don't connect to mechanical things very well. So I use a lot of Google SketchUp. So I would have printed out that angle of that at some point, so that I could draw the car there. And then I wanted to give it a sense of like eyes. It's like almost like the UFO is looking down at him, and then the car behind him is almost looming over him as well. So he feels trapped in between these two spaces. And then you can see like how little I actually pencil on the page often. All I needed was his facial expressions and his body language. And then all the black spotting and like how the folds in his clothes, it all happens in the brush. And the trees as well. Like I just needed to get a shape of like, how are the trees outlined? And the rest of that is just done straight with pen and ink and just go right onto the page with it.
Yeah, it's gorgeous. I mean, I felt the same thing. I mean, I didn't want to be dumb and say that car is staring at me, but so I'm glad you did.
Yeah, that was definitely intentional.
Yeah, when I'm looking at it, I felt the exact same thing. You know, he's stuck between this car and the saucer, and yeah, I mean, it's a wonderful image, and I should say Darren Stater did claim this one, so thank you, Darren, for that.
Oh, thank you, Darren. We know Darren.
Hey.
But yeah,
and you can also see what's fun too is the saucer is just freehand. You can see kind of how wobbly it is. I do that because I don't have the French curves or the special templates you would need for that. But I also like that freehand feel to it. Now, I believe once I published it, I went in and cleaned it up so that it was more shape accurate. But I always say, don't be a perfectionist. Perfectionism ruins art for me, you know. Not ruins it, but I mean, for me, I just like imperfections to speak for themselves on the page. But sometimes, you know, an object like that, it needs to feel artificial, you know, like it should stick out on the page artificially. Unlike the car, I want the car to feel natural, but it felt great to like go back digitally and make it feel weird in its perfection.
Now on this one, I mean, was the one that only that has the prelim. So was it light box? I mean, did you light? Because I don't see any blue on the finished piece.
And a lot of these I also did light box digital pencils.
Okay.
Yeah, but I know there's a good handful of like, and I have to go through pages to match them up. But I know that there's also a good handful like that are actually laid out by pencil.
Okay. Well, thank you, Darren, for picking that up and breaking the ice for the show today. So like I said, we've got 3 more pages from Blue Book to look at. And this one's, I love the imagery on this one. So this is lot 7, price to $800. I mean, those aliens are pretty frightening.
Yeah, but I gotta say, this is my favorite page from the issue because of the aliens. What's interesting is, like, this is only interesting if you're into this stuff, but there's been this evolution of the alien look. And like when Betty and Barney first described them, they described them like this. They were relatively normal proportioned human shaped, except for their heads were just shaped differently, but still about the same size. They weren't this larger size heads. And even their eyes were just described as larger almond shaped eyes, but not huge, not like what you see come later with like Whitley Strieber's Communion and stuff.
Right.
But that imagery is so strong that even though I meant to keep drawing them like this through the book, they do get larger throughout the series because there's just something that strikes you about those eyes. They're just so piercing and stuff, and they become bigger even when they're not supposed to, so that I end up really fighting against it. And then I took this image and I believe I distorted it some in the colors. So if you have the published book, you'll be able to see that, like, I moved the images around, like actually distorted the shapes of them as well as some of the colors. I would do color holds and then grab that color and then pull it across the page so it almost looked like they had sort of supernatural auras pulling out of them and stuff.
Well, it's I mean, the composition on the page is great. I mean, I didn't have the published image of this one. I probably should have dug around to get it, but I love it. I mean, I love the blacks on those lower 4 panels. The last panel with again the car between him and the spaceship. It's great. But yeah, the aliens are so well done.
They're pretty creepy for sure.
Oh, Mike Perlin has to go. Well, we will. You can watch the rest of it later on, Mike. Thanks for tuning in today.
Actually, if you,
What's that?
the first issue is over there. I can
Sure.
grab it real quick.
Oh, the color. So we can
Yeah,
see
I
it.
can just pull it.
I
out
did
real
see
quick.
it in the photograph. It was over by your desk.
Oh, here it is.
Here, I'll swing you to full screen for that.
So what I did was I like using these psychedelic patterns. It's something I started picking up with Cave Carson. But then what was also fun was just grabbing the color and like distorting it to make it bigger and to change the shapes around and stuff. So there you go.
That's nice. No, I mean I love it, and I love the the choice of doing it all in blue on that one. That makes sense because we have the page after this one now, and I can show that here. But let me get it up on the screen. That was lot 8, and I do have the color slide for this one.
There you go.
Yep. So this is page 19 from Blue Book. It's on 11 by 17, priced at $800 as well, like lot 7 was. And yeah, I mean, 2 sequential pages here, and I love the simple palette for these. The blue, the red. I mean, it just makes it pop. I mean, there's a lot of wonderful things being considered here in a page like this, and this one it's just haunting. The way you've kind of you can see the guy just he's breaking down.
Thanks so much. And it was really fun. This is what's great about limitations, right? So like I chose to do like these blue color holes. But then when you have something really horrifying happen, to throw that red in it feels like an explosion, like it's almost like that Inception horn sound or something. And it is just so frightening because it comes out of nowhere when you turn the page and there's just this big red. And that's what's great. If this was a full color book, that wouldn't have been as effective.
Right.
So that was one of the things I had always planned on was like, all right, I'm going to stick to these just 2 blue tones as much as possible. Every now and then, if I have to, there'll be like a third cheat shade of tone. But I'll look for these places where we can drop in some color to just scare people. And you can also see where I dropped out some lines here, like in the 3rd panel on his face, the outside of his face. I did a lot of erasing lines digitally after I drew stuff, which just created a sense of either connection or disconnection to the character and the background. And it depends on the piece. Here it kind of makes a glowing effect, like he's so in shock of what he's seeing that his face is almost lighting up. And that's just by dropping out the line, by taking something out, not by adding it.
No, very nice. I mean, it makes sense. I like the choices there that you did to modify it, but of course, love looking at the original art on the right as well. But the color changes and dropping a few lines here or there, make a lot of sense.
Thank you.
And Shelley mentioned, and I think that might have been on the previous one about the sense of uneasiness in these pieces, without question.
Oh yeah, and I mean a lot of that's in James's script.
Yeah.
Like he doesn't say it, but it's all in the subtext of the sense of impending doom, or like how long they've been followed by this thing or chased. There's a mention of like Barney when he was a kid, him and his brother were hunting a rabbit, and they got this rabbit like cornered, and he just saw this frozen look in the rabbit's face, which is illustrated earlier in the book or later. So I wanted to capture that feeling. So like James set it up, he set up the mood. And then when this moment happened, it was easy to think of him as, like a frightened rabbit. You ever see a rabbit so scared that they freeze instead of running, and that's what's happening at the moment.
That's fantastic. And we've got one other page to look at. So I'll recap this one at the end of the show. This is lot 9. So this is earlier in Blue Book 1. This is page 2 to that.
Yeah.
And just a gorgeous illustration here. And it's priced at $800. And I don't have the color, but I know you've got the color with you, so we can show that.
Sure. This is one of my favorite pieces, to be honest. It's just Betty and Barney. Like I really became attached to the characters emotionally as I was drawing this. Part of it is they're older than my parents' generation, but there's still a lot about them, especially Betty as she got older, that reminded me of my aunt, my mother a lot. So the two characters really grew on me as human beings. And just drawing this page of him opening the door for hers, she gets in with his dog. It says so much about their relationship. The two of them were very, very close. And they went through this really weird, traumatic thing that just brought a lot of unwelcomed strife into their life. You know, it's not like they became, lauded celebrities. You know, they were accused of, faking things, and she was accused of manipulating Barney, and Barney was accused of all kinds of stuff. And I just became really emotionally attached to these characters. So I just wanted the sense of like, it's the two of them on this journey, and there's the vastness of space above them. And it's one of my favorite things.
Yeah, it's I'll actually hold it up for everybody. Again, it's edge to edge on this piece, very nicely done. And I did see the color image, but I didn't. I downloaded it, but you've got it. Here we go, because I know it had lettering on it. Here, let me go full screen with you. There we go.
Nice and simple. And again, I took out line work on top of the car, so it gets this sense of glowing, and around their bodies as well, in their face. And then the stars were done digitally because I can get like a glowing effect.
Well, and doing it like that too. I mean, I'm reminded of some printing back in the day where they would drop out things like a line and use the color to kind of define shapes. And it seems like you're playing a little bit historically with the way imagery would have been.
It's a combination of two things. Like there's a lot of the older, like you have like the Art of Mary Blair and stuff.
Yeah.
Darwin Cook did it beautifully. He was dipping from the same well. He did it beautifully and amazing in all of his Parker books and stuff. And he brought it to a whole other level because he was doing that. He was painting those, I believe, like physically on the page,
which is scrazy, right? I mean, I've seen a lot of those. I mean, he was doing 2 pages on a board, which is even more insane. But yeah, I know what you mean. He was just doing it on a first pass, which is tough. I mean, I'd be more like you. I'd have to like do it and then determine what to remove or add. But he was pretty. Did a pretty good job with that.
Yeah.
So that's the last Blue Book page. We have the other 2 pieces I've got that are new are essentially pin up the commission types of things that you put together. Mm-hmm. And this first one it's lot 10, and it's Hellboy and Abe Sapien on 11x17, priced at $600. And was this one done just kind of for fun, or
literally just for fun?
Yeah.
Like this was just, I was actually listening to there's a Hellboy podcast. We're just playing video games and stuff. And I think I was actually drawing something else. I was working on something, and I just flipped the page as I'm listening to their podcast. And Abe was my favorite. I got to draw Abe in a couple of in one of the first BPRD stories called The Soul of Venice. And so I've always been attached to him. And then I got to do a single issue of an Abe Sapien thing. And I was just struck. I was like, oh, I got to draw some Hellboy. And I think I had also started reading Bones of Giants, that one of my favorite artists, Matt Smith, was drawing. I was just listening to their podcast, and I just sorry. For as much work as I have, I still every now and then I'll do something for myself.
Right. No, I mean it's I remember when I first saw this piece, I was like, wow, that one's a beauty. That one's not going to last, and it should be published at some point. But I saw Max Machado did get his claim in first. Just remember, everybody, we always like the lot numbers to be with the claims when they come in, especially if you're claiming things that you see earlier and you come back later. So we always like the lot number to be a part of it. But
thank you, Max.
I think Mike, Josh, Steven, there were several people that were interested in this piece, but congrats to Max for getting that one.
Thanks, Max.
Yeah, no,
much appreciated. Yay!
I would have got that one if nobody else. It was nice. But let's see here. Okay, so next up is the other piece done specifically, I guess, for the show as well. And that was the Red Sonja, and I had to add and the Rat as well. This is on 11x17, edge to edge, of course, same price at $600. And was this one kind of just for fun? When I saw it, I was like, this could be, it could be a published cover. I mean, it's really nicely done. I mean, it's what I expect out of your work, for a published piece.
Thanks. This is just for myself. I've recently just really been getting back into a lot of like old school sword and sorcery books, the Elric books specifically.
Uh-huh.
And obviously, since I've read Sonya, I still have some like leftover ideas and stuff. And as I was listening to one of Michael Moorcock's audiobooks, I just started sketching away, and this idea of Sonya having to transport a giant skull for some reason. And like in my mind, I wasn't sure if the rats live in the skull or if the rats are helping her with the thing or what, and obviously I have a thing for mice and small critters. So just kind of threw it all together and wanted to capture the sense of mood. We've also been playing a lot of a lot of Witcher and Assassin's Creed Odyssey, which is just, it's just old ruins everywhere and stuff. So the combination of all those things was just sinking in my head one day, and I was like, all right, time to draw some Red Sonya. And rats.
No, I mean, it's awesome. And it's I wondered, I was going to say why the skull on her back, but so now you've laid it all out for me. You came up with a whole narrative just for this one piece. I love it. And
like I really admire artists when they draw like a story that goes with their piece. Chris Samney is really good at that.
Oh yeah.
Like even if it's just a little pinup, he's got some sort of scenario going on. And I tend to do like you saw in the Hellboy A piece, like sort of the a pose where the emphasis is really put on composition. But yeah, every now and then I try and challenge myself and tell a little story. So.
Well, I want to congratulate Andrew Hanna for picking up this lot. We sincerely appreciate it, and the story makes it even better. And I did want to highlight also that Alejandro picked up lot 2, and I'll just remind everybody which one that was, because that was the that one unused piece that we all love. I mean, I used it on part of the show graphic because I love this image a great deal. So
thank you, Alejandro. Thank you.
Yeah, that is a beauty. All right. Well, thank you both, Andrew and Alejandro.
Yeah, thank you, Andrew. Thank you, Alejandro.
All right. So, there you go. Alejandro says first time. So if somebody here can remember what's okay. I mean, I'll do it right now before we move into the 11 pieces that people have probably seen before if you've watched our shows. Alejandro, I just need you to email bill@comicartfans.com and just, give me, it's always good to include your mailing address when you first email me to do the invoices as well. I don't think I said that, but bill@comicartfans.com, mailing address, and I will get invoices out to everybody later today. So yeah, but we've got 11 more pieces to look at, and these are pieces that we've had on the show before, and but because they were still with us, we decided we'd offer them one more time at a reduced price before we send them back to Mike. So let's go ahead and take a look at these. The first one,
I don't have any more room.
You don't have any more room, right? We don't want to send these back to Mike.
No more space.
So this is lot 12. It's covered of Black Panther 3. It's on 11x17, and it's very reduced from the price we had it at before. This is priced at $800. I mean, how often can you get a published cover, especially in the Marvel genre at all, that would be at a price right like this? But it doesn't have Black Panther on it, but it's still an awesome published piece. And I mean, how did this job come about? I don't remember us talking about it, but
I think this is around the time I was doing the Dick Tracy stuff.
Yeah.
And IDW had rights to do certain Marvel books and tie-ins to, like, these look like the designs from the movie. I'm not sure, but yeah, it was just a really cool opportunity to get to draw these characters. I mean, you can see this is a combination of sometimes how I work, which is a combination of digital and analog together. And I believe this was, I probably drew it digitally and then printed out the pencils and then lightboxed it. So I think this is a fairly clean piece of art.
It is. Yeah, I don't see, there's no blue line or anything on here. So that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And I love all the hands that are so classic Mike Oeming hands.
Mm-hmm. Very, very true. So yeah, so this one's out there, $800, and anybody that would like to claim that, please let us know. And of course, anybody watching the show after the fact, I should remind you that I'll have the art in hand probably through through the rest of the following week. So anybody sees the show afterwards, you see something that wasn't claimed during the show, you can email me, bill@comicartfans.com, and I can let you know if it's still available, and then we can arrange payment as well. So let's take a look at lot 13 next. This was one of the Cave Carson pages. This was from issue 7. This one has Superman on it, of course, in a couple of the panels, and it's on 11 by 17. This one's reduced as well, down to 350. Really, creative layout on it. And I do love the fact that you like using heavy blacks. It's just It's kind of a signature style of yours in your interior page layouts, and this one's just fun because the blacks just really define that chasm, and it just makes it makes a really fun piece and something that feels like a complete work of art when you look at it.
Oh, thank you. And it was really fun too because it gave me an opportunity to go back to some of my, it's not quite cartoonier, but like, those Bruce Timm kind of proportions, and getting to draw Superman was a lot of fun because I've kind of veered away from that a bit as I've gone on. So every now and then it's good to remind myself, just go back and do this really fun, big, special, like cone shapes, and then they become so expressive with light because there's less, if you're not drawing all the muscles and stuff, you really get to sort of express the shapes going on. So it was really fun. And plus Cave Carson and Superman were just a fun team up. Like there's an issue where Cave hallucinates Superman eating him, and like he travels through his bowel system and everything. It was
that's one hallucination for you.
Yeah, I was like, I think this is the first. I think I'm the first guy drawing the insides of Superman.
Right.
And then here he's saving it from a giant crab crystal, which
Well, Cave Carson was such a great read. I mean, even like I mentioned earlier, I bought 2 pages from you after the last show because I hadn't read it, and then I read it right before our interview, and I loved the book immensely, and I had to pick up a couple pages myself. So congrats to Chris Finnegan for picking up lot 13, and I just noticed as well that Josh Flanders has picked up lot 4. So
thank you, Chris and Josh.
Do that, and I'll even show that one on screen so everybody knows which lot 4 was, and that was this one right there for 600. Thank you so much, Josh. All right,
Retro Girl. Thank you.
Yeah, that one's a good one, and there was a lot of interest in that one as well. So thank you to Chris for picking that up. So next up, let's see here. That one is got my numbers mixed up. Okay, here's lot 14. This was from Cave Carson. This was the collected cover, right? I think, and it was I guess you could say it's a little not work safe. It's a robot though, right? So it's it's okay. It's not NWS, but it's on 11 by 17, priced at $900. Reduced from the last time we showed it. But I just this is such an amazing piece, Mike. I love this thing to death. I mean, the perspective on the buildings, the figures here. It's gorgeous, and it's got these crazy tentacles on there that are absolutely, totally misshapen. But I mean, yeah, as a work of art, this thing is beautiful. And I don't always love like colored versions of pieces that have this kind of impact on me. But the published cover is just stunning too. I mean, it's beautiful.
Yeah, that's Nick Flaherty's colors, and like, man, he just killed it. One of the fun things about this too is the building that she's on is the building from Metropolis, from the 1920s silent film. Since obviously there was an influence on these character designs from there. Now, obviously, the published version didn't have the full nudity, but I wasn't trying to be gratuitous. It just made sense that the robots are naked because they're robots and they don't have clothes, and it's story appropriate and all of that. So I just wanted to go ahead and just do it for the cover. And then the tentacles, earlier we were talking about other influences besides my big influences. This is some of the Eric Canetti stuff. Like I would look at the way he would draw snakes, and there's some eels that he drew in some pinup or something. And I just love the way he exaggerated, pushed and pulled and stretched the features. And I specifically remember like looking at Eric's stuff when I was trying to figure out the shapes of these tentacles, so they feel like they're flowing and stuff. So that's some of that influence there. He's tremendous.
Yeah, it's very well done. And Andy Fish, another artist, mentions about the Metropolis and Fritz Lang feel there.
That's totally what it's from, for sure.
I love how iconic this feels too.
Oh, I agree. I love this image. So Darren Stater mentions that he's looking at the cover to issue 2 on his wall right now while we're talking.
Oh,
so
yes.
No.
Congrats on having that one, Darren. That's awesome. So this one is out there still at $900, and we'll go ahead and take a look at the next lot. So we're moving on to something a little different here. This was a character study, and it's on 11 by 17 from Darkness from Lobrock's Hand. And I don't remember. I know we talked about the piece, but I mean, what was the? Was this a character design of your own, or one that you were just trying to work out the, how you would draw that character?
Yeah, this is for a single issue of The Darkness that was written by Phil Hester.
Oh,
so
cool.
It's Phil and I working on. It's a standalone issue that takes place in Nordic times, and this was the main character / villain. I can't. From looking at him, he looks like a villain, but he might have been the hero. I'm not sure. It's a Darkness book, so it was really fun drawing this style. Like typically when I draw people, it's a combination of brush and marker and pen and stuff. This kind of called for something different. So this is all drawn in pen, kind of the way I would do like Mice Templar with all the really finer details and sharpness and shapes and stuff. So this was the character study for The Darkness. And that's still one of my favorite things that I've done because it was with Phil, and it was, Vikings and fantasy and this really weird opportunity to just do something different. So I still really like this. Like, even though it's just a character study, this piece here, I just really like a lot. Like, cool. When you're drawing these bombastic, over-the-top characters, like, they're really fun.
Well, I love Phil as a creator. I mean, as an artist, he's got one hell of an art collection too. So I admire him for many, many, many things. So that's a cool piece. I'm sure that was a fun project to work on with Phil. Yeah,
I'd love to work with Phil again. Gotta have him.
I've been emailing Phil. I want to get him on the show to do just like a art collector interview with him. I mean, I'm sure we'd be able to talk about his career a bit too. But he's got a couple thousand pieces of art in his art collection, and he's got some amazing stuff.
Wow.
So yeah, we won't even talk about his art career. We'll just talk about his. Oh man, but all right. So 15 is still out there as well. We'll move over and take a look at lot 16. This was cover to Old Guard 3, Tales Through Time. It was a variant cover for that issue, done on 11 by 17. That's been repriced down to $8.75. For those of you who are interested in it, I know when we talked about it, we love the stickers on the wall. I mean, this was a very fun image, of course, and I know you had a good time working on it.
Yeah, it was a blast. Greg's a good friend, Greg Rucka. The comic is obviously great, but I was also just a big fan of the film as well. And I think he's just back in Portland now after filming the second Old Guard film. So there's a new movie coming out as well. And it was just really fun working on this. And Brian wrote the story. Taki colored it, and took place in the 70s. So it was just a lot of fun to like pull in that kind of vibe. And I think this was like I printed out. I think I drew it digitally, and then I printed it out in non-repro blue, and then inked it directly on the board.
No, it's a very cool image, of course, and I love the movie and the books as well. And so this one is and Josh mentions comics great too. Yeah, it was a good film. So this one is still out there. This is lot 16, priced at $8.75. And let's take a look at lot 17 here. This is a published cover to Powers Bureau, and this is issue 5 on 11 by 17, signed by Bendis, of course, and we've priced this one at $900, and down from I think the last show. But yeah, I love this. To me, I love the Kirby Crackle. This has a lot of different fun references to it. And it's just I love the imagery on it. I love the multi characters on this as a cover. Those are like daring things to do, right? I mean, you're so used to wanting to like draw something big and eye catching, and you're taking risks in making an image like this, but it's slick, it's cinematic. And I mean, and again, when I look at the color piece is so well done. Again, I mean, black and white, and I don't usually say that when I look at works, but the work that you guys did in Powers is just phenomenal on all levels, and this is a really fantastic image.
Thanks. Yeah, Nick just brings it every single time to be able, because when you look at the black and white, because of the detail of the city, some of the detail in those panels sort of especially in the bottom two, sort of they don't pop as well, right?
Mhm.
But then he just knew what right color combinations to make to separate all the layers and just make things like really sing. Some fun stuff on this besides Brian signed it. The character, I mean, you can't really tell the way I draw, but the character with the binoculars is Brad Meltzer. And then the character under him is my uncle. Some people might have met my uncle. I would take him to cons with me and stuff. And I often drew him my comics. So that's a little bit of the story behind there. But I really do enjoy, I don't really enjoy drawing that big. So sometimes like there's, even at comic conventions and stuff like that, I'll just kind of draw a couple of squares, and instead of drawing one big figure, they'll get a couple of little figures or parts of figures and stuff. And this is a really neat layout. Like I like this kind of T formation. I think I might try this kind of thing again. And this one was story specific when we were talking about like a lot of the themes of Powers are more just thematic. But this one I do remember had specific stuff to do with the story.
I love how cool Dina is. Like she's just carefree.
She's the coolest.
Yeah.
And Shelley mentions the panels make it enticing. I agree. I completely agree.
Yeah.
Thank you, Shelley.
All right. Well, that one is still available at $900. And then we've got, this is lot 18, another Powers cover. This is issue 12, signed by Bennis as well, as you can see, and priced at $950.
Interesting thing about this was not intended to be a cover.
Really?
This is one that I actually did specifically to do as a print for, I think it was Emerald City Comic Con.
Mm-hmm.
But then, yeah, we ended up doing a cover and did this interesting thing. We had tried several different versions of this cover, and Nick, I believe, went ahead and did full colors on this, and then he did a version where he just threw in these weird negatives, and sometimes the simplest thing is the thing that works the best. It was kind of neat to just, red circle with them in negative space. Totally worked out. So weird looking, but I love it.
I like that reverse. Yeah. But no, it's a cool image. I think it's and it works well. It works well as a cover. It would have worked well as something else, a print or whatever. But no, it's totally slick like this.
Yeah, classic Walker and Dina.
Mm-hmm.
I miss drawing them. I miss them. They're just became family after a while, I guess.
He's not kidding. He had marked the calendar of the day he drew the last page of Powers ever.
Yeah. It's a good thing I don't drink anymore. Because I know that day would just be a big drinking day.
Hail Oeming. That could be a T-shirt. Maybe bring back Powers. Yeah. So say we all, says Giancarlo. Yeah, there you go. Lots of fans. All right. Well, this one's still out there at $950 as well. That was lot 18. So I got lot 19 next. This was another.
This was
the one. Yeah, I remember. Tell me the story about this one again. I remember. I can't recall exactly. It was solicited but never released.
Yeah, that's right. So when Brian was moving from Marvel to DC, this issue was sort of caught in the middle of that. So I don't believe the actual issue ever came out. Now obviously we did a finished color here, and it was intended to, and I think it was solicited, but then it never actually was never actually released. And in the storyline, it became part of the. We folded some of the story into the Powers Best Ever graphic novel, the very last story, which is why we see the wolf and the return of Walker's Forever storyline. So you have Walker as, the famous 8-man Walker from that infamous issue, the Conan Hyborian kind of Walker, and then there's the Walker when he ends up in Asia for a while, and then there's the wolf behind him, and then obviously Walker as he becomes, as we all know and love him, with his cool haircut. But I love this piece. I really like the progression. It's almost like he's evolving over time up to where we have him. And then his relationship with the wolf was just always sort of a classic Joseph Campbell kind of thing. And yeah, really enjoyed this cover a lot.
Yeah, and Josh says the 8-man issue is really unforgettable.
Unforgettable or unforgivable?
Maybe Josh would probably being polite by saying unforgettable. Oh man, but all right. Well, this one's still available too at $800, and we've got 3 more pieces to look at. And the next one is another Powers cover. This one has a Shining homage to it, of course, and you know, I think it's just so darn cool. We've reduced the price on this one to $800. It's priced it's 11 by 17. It is signed by Brian as well. And yeah, this one's just I love it. I mean, I love the fact that it, you know, the way you guys chose to print it, you know, flipping it like that. Yeah, I love this image. If anybody's a fan of The Shining, you had to look at this and be like, yeah.
Yeah, The Shining is like one of those films that, I mean, outside of the Stanley Kubrick conspiracy stuff, right? I could just watch that movie over and over again. I love it so much. And Dina's obviously has a bit of, she's struggling with her own demons. And she's got a lot of her own sort of darkness with her. So the story, I don't think specifically there wasn't any reason why we went Shining on this, but you know, it's just something that I wanted to do, and so I did this homage, and flipping it was interesting, you know. I don't know that I paid attention to the fact that we turned it upside down until it was published, because I'm very much about, you know, just finishing the work, and I focus on my deadline. So I'm not always paying attention to the production end of things, which is fine because of who we work with. And we always work with good teams of people that bring good decision-making stuff. And sometimes that's Brian. Sometimes it's just Brian. Brian will just look at it, oh, that looks better reverse. Yeah, so really happy with this guy.
Well, Brian started out as an artist, right? So, I mean, he has, I'm sure he's got a good eye for those sorts of things. And like you said, it's the one thing that he might get critical with you is regarding the covers, or in some weird way. So,
yeah,
either way.
He has very specific sort of philosophies about covers, which, yeah, I won't speak for him, but yeah, he just has, you know, very, very clear ideas of what works and what he likes or doesn't like for a cover.
Mm-hmm.
Sweet. Well, thank you, Giancarlo, for picking this one up. It's a beauty, and I'll be happy to pack that one up and ship it off to Chicago. Let's see, we got two more here, and this one, lot 21. This was an interior page from Powers Best Ever, and this one's got Super Shock on it. Of course, it's on 11 by 17, and it is priced at $800. And important character to the Best Ever line.
It's an important character in like the whole Powers lexicon, you know.
Yeah.
Like, some of the most important characters you've got, you know, Dina, Retro Girl, Trip Hammer, Walker, obviously, and he's up there. And then during the television show, one of the biggest surprises was Michael Madsen playing this character. He was amazing. Like he captured this character in such great ways. He looked great in the costume.
And the costume was really close to the source material too.
Yeah. So this is a big part. This is his first appearance. Not in the. I mean, he appeared obviously in the comic before, but in the timeline, this is him first appearing in the book, and this is in the Best Ever Powers, the Best Ever graphic novel. And yeah, I just really like this piece. I like that I was able to capture. I think this is another sort of Kennedy inspired piece, like the way he went about the action lines and this kind of like twisting tunnel like thing, you know. And yeah, when I think about really big energy, a lot of times I think about Kennedy's work. So yeah, this was just a really fun piece with Super Shock, who does some great, like in his original appearance in Powers, did some of the craziest stuff too, where he grabbed Dina and flew her out into space and pulled her heart out. That was really fun.
What a jerk.
Yeah.
He needs that, you know.
Yeah. He put it back. I mean.
Oh, all right.
All right. Well, this one is still available, too. That's lot 21 at $800. And I got one more here to show. This was the This is lot 22, priced at $350. Superman Worlds at War issue 3, and this one's got Mr. Miracle on it, of course, with something to break out of as always, and it's on 11 by 17. So a very nice splash page here.
Yeah, and again, this is one of those things where it was just so special to get to draw this Jack Kirby character, right? And this was for Midnighter, I think the Midnighter backups in one of the Superman series, which is written by Becky Cloonan and Michael Conrad. It's one of the few pieces I did analog just because I knew I'd want to sell and draw a Mr. Miracle like analog. And the rest of it was done digitally. So this is one of the few pieces that exists from the whole Midnighter run.
Well, it has been claimed by Lee Palmer. So thank you so much, Lee.
Thanks, Lee.
That's a good get on that one. Definitely.
I love that piece.
I'm glad all of these pieces are finding a good home, because that's the thing too. Like, you just because you're selling it doesn't mean you don't want it or you're not attached to it anymore. And just knowing that like real fans who appreciate whether it's my art or it's the subject matter that, it's going someplace good.
Right. No, exactly. Well, clearly you've got a lot of art still laying around you. I mean, you want them to go to good homes. It sounds like some of the fans here have collected your work for a while, Darren being one of them. So it's always nice to have, people who like, we need more art collectors out there. And it sounds like, you definitely have a lot of fans that love your work. So
I do wish I got out to shows more. Like one of the things I miss is meeting people.
Mm-hmm.
And you make friendships like with like Michael Perlman and Darren. He's people that actually Darren I've never met. He's just been like buying art off and on through the years. But that's the thing that I miss about cons is you just meet interesting people and you make connections and kind of lifelong connections too. Like there's people that I've been con pals with for 20 something years.
Mm-hmm.
And that I wish I could get more of.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, that is the social side of the hobby that we'd like, right? I mean, that's really one of the best parts of cons. I mean, I like buying art directly from artists too, but just the opportunity to kind of stand across the table from somebody or meet a collector who I've emailed with a dozen times in the last 20 years, but I finally get to meet him in person, which happened a couple of times at MegaCon for me last weekend. So yeah, that's definitely a fun part of it. But now that we have these, it changes things a little bit.
Get out again, it's just that's the thing.
Well, Darren appreciates the shout out too. One day you two will probably get to meet at the show. Well, what I'll do is we'll just recap what didn't sell, and anyone who sees these pieces after the show are more than welcome to reach out to me, bill@comicartfans.com, and let me know if you're still interested. I'll let you know if the pieces are still available, and if we can set something up afterwards. For those of you who did claim something, you can email me now or after we recap everything, but you'll want to email me. Just remind me of the lots you picked up. I've got everything written down, but it's always good. Put the lot number that you claimed, include your mailing address when you send that email. And, if you want, you can let me know whether you want to be able to pay by Zelle or PayPal when, as part of that email. That'll just make it easier for me, rather, sending you an invoice or going ahead and giving you my contact information to pay me via Zelle. And I see Scott Kelly has gone ahead and claimed lot 18. So I will take that one off the board. Thank you, Scott. I appreciate that. All right. Well, let's go through this set. Now, just remember, we did have 2 books available. One is, lot A effectively is a signed book on the cover by Mike Oeming. As you can see, those are $25. Shipping is $9, and domestic $30 international. And the other version of this Murder Inc. signed book is one with a remark on the inside. It's not signed on the cover, just remarked on the inside cover with a sketch. Same prices on the shipping there: $9 domestic, $30 international. You can claim them here in the chat if you want, but feel free to just shoot me an email, bill@comicartfans.com, and we can get one of those out to you after we invoice you. So let's take a look at the art now. Lot 1 is still available. This was the cover to Powers Bureau 3, and it's 11 by 17, signed by Bendis, priced at $1,100. Lot 2 did sell, so I can show you lot 3. This was the interior we had. This is priced at $800, and it's It's from Power's Best Ever, which was a pretty big book. I know that Michael had listed out the page numbers. I should have wrote them down when he was doing it, but I didn't. This one's on 11 by 17 like everything else, and priced at $800. And love the layout on this one too, Mike. I love that angled panel in the middle. I just think that's fun, and it really kind of makes the page even more dynamic.
No, thanks, man.
Now, lot 4 was picked up by Josh, of course. So then we can look at lot 5. That was the cover to Dick Tracy issue 3 on 11 by 17, priced at $1,200. And lot 6 was sold to Darren. So then we can look at lot 7. That was Mike's self-professed favorite page from this book. So this was page 19 and priced at $800. Again, 11 by 17 on that one. Then the following page to that was page 19. Priced at $800 as well. That's lot 8. And then we've got page 2 from that book for lot 9, also priced at $800. Now, lots 10 and 11 both did sell. Those were the commission style pieces. So the remaining pieces that we have, the first up was the cover to Black Panther 3. It's lot 12, priced at $800. Chris Finnegan picked up lot 13. So then lot 14, that's a collected cover at $900 from Cave Carson, Volume 2. It's lot 14, again, priced at $900. And then we've got this piece, part of a Phil Hester storyline from Darkness. This is lot 15, priced at $175 on 11 by 17 board, character study. And then we've got lot 16, the Old Guard, number 3, Tales Through Time, variant cover on 11 by 17, priced at $875. And lot 17, Powers number 5 cover, also signed by Bendis and Mike. This one's priced at $900. Now the other Powers cover, that 18, was the one that sold to Scott. So thank you, Scott, for that. And let's go ahead and take a look at lot 19. That was the solicited but not released, as far as we know, piece cover from Powers, and this one's priced at $800 as well. And then last but not least is the Interior Patron Best Ever featuring Super Shock, first appearance. This is lot 21, priced at $800. So we got them all in. Well, Mike, as always, these are a lot of fun. And I'm glad that we changed up. I don't think we've ever been in the studio before when we've done one of these. We were always someplace else in the house, so we've got a different.
Yeah, dining room table probably.
Exactly. So no, this is good. This, maybe next time. I think I really enjoyed getting to see some photos of your workspace. It's not something I typically have ever asked an artist to show off while I was doing an interview, but I remembered we had talked about that, and I just think it's cool to get a different perspective on things, and to see a few originals on the wall behind you as well.
I've got a lot more. It's just we got to settle in one day and hang them up.
I understand, but again, I appreciate you guys taking the time today, and everybody in the show who watched us live and picked up art. Thank you so much to everybody. We sincerely appreciate it. Mike and I have done a few of these shows in the past. They're always a lot of fun. And I'm sure we'll be doing more of these in the future too. And I think that cycle is pretty good. You seem to get a lot of workout every 6 months that gives us something to talk about.
Yeah, there's quite a bit coming out. So yeah, it'll be exciting to come back, and we'll bring some new stuff.
Awesome. Well, Taki, even though we didn't get to see you on camera, thank you so much for all that you do to help make these shows possible. Yes, I know you pull things together. You probably do a lot more than I know when we're getting these things together. But maybe we'll be able to talk about one of your projects next time we have a show. That would be cool. All right. Well, listen, thank you. It's a holiday weekend. We sincerely appreciate you taking the time out to watch the show today. I hope you enjoy the rest of your weekend. And again, we appreciate your support. Take care, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.